Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hi, welcome to the show. It's the Jeff Gerstmann Show. This is a podcast about video games. Hello, I'm Jeff Gerstmann, your host. This is the first true episode of the show. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us. It's been a very fascinating chunk of time here, and I am looking forward to getting into it. I burned up all of my good non-video game stories during the pre-show banter, and so as a result, segment one is just fucking shot, man. Hey, what's going on? So yeah, it's been a bit of a wild time. It's getting warmer, and we are trying to teach our daughter how to swim, as she is just about 3 now. And we have successfully changed swim lesson places after having a I guess I don't know. It's a long drive. We went to somewhere closer, a closer pool. But we also have access to a pool that does not get used very often. It's a little ways away. And so I am looking forward to doing some swimming. Can you tell it's hot in this room? By the way, I'm immediately talking about, I'm like, man, swimming is fucking great. Swimming is outstanding. So yeah, I guess, episode 1, let's start from the get-go. I'm Jeff. I've been covering video games for a very long time. Am I going to live react to the Sonic stream that's happening right now? Absolutely not. But I wish them the best. I heard nice things about that game, and then a lot of that footage came out, and people seem very up in arms about the Sonic Frontiers stuff, and I've only caught this kind of secondhand because I've not watched the state of play. Because after we record this podcast here live, I'm doing this live, by the way. If you're listening to this later, we're broadcasting it live on Twitch right now. We're gonna watch state of play because I haven't seen it yet, and I want to see it, so I figured I'll watch it with y'all. If you're interested in watching it again, I don't know, maybe you've seen it already and you're like, whatever, man. But we'll record the podcast and we'll check out the state of play. But I guess I'll say, if Sonic fans, and this doesn't always apply, right? This doesn't always apply, but if Sonic fans think something is bad, I'm inclined to think, hey, they're going to make a good Sonic game for once, because that's breaking the Sonic cycle, right? There's normally they would be in the phase of being super hyped, but if they're like, this is terrible, then that means they're probably making something different, and hopefully something good. But it still says Sonic right on the box. So honestly, what can you really hope for there? Yeah, but no, I'll catch up on the Sonic stream later or something like that. It's a weird week. We're heading into kind of Summer Game Fest season. I guess I would say E3 season, but we're not. We kind of have to get used to not calling it that anymore. Though literally everyone is calling it that. It was just like, oh, here we are. E3 season's upon us again, and it's not E3. And that's very strange. It is weird to go into a year with absolutely nothing for E3, because even last year they tried to put something together, and it's kind of been the weird thing. I guess the song and dance over the last few years, the one-sided song and dance is, feeling like, oh man, I've been to every single E3. I went to all of them. And then they were the ones that bailed out. And so I win, baby. And it's very bittersweet. And I think people misconstrue a lot of the talk around the viability and meaningfulness of E3 and all that sort of stuff, because, when when I'll say like, oh man, I miss E3, they'll be like, oh, you spent years talking about how useless it was. It's like, yeah, both can be true. Like, it's fun. E3 is even when you look at it and go like, hey, I don't know that this is a valuable, viable, ongoing annual event and all that sort of stuff. You have to kind of take a step back and go like, no, but it is still extremely fun to go see all these people who make all these games. As you know, again, as someone who wants to learn more about their process and talk to them and interview them and see these games in various levels of production and just kind of see how it all kind of comes together and all that sort of stuff. I think that stuff's super fascinating, and it doesn't really exist anywhere else. You know, PAX does a lot. But PAX is more of a public show, and so you'll end up with games that are much further along because they're trying to demo them to the public and all those sorts of things. And you know, it doesn't really meet the same goal. And so I think Keeley stepping in to kind of play traffic cop for a lot of these events and do his event coming up here is good. It's not really the same thing, but I don't think he's necessarily trying to make the same thing. And that would make a lot of sense because that same thing was something that everyone looked at and went like, this seems very expensive. And this seems like, does this make sense for us to do? Does it make sense for us to attend this show? It's a lot of, I mean, look, there's still a freaking pandemic, right? I mean, we have to try to not forget that as much as everyone, seems to want to just go like, yeah, remember last year when people were getting sick? Like, you know, like people got sick at PAX and then they just went ahead and announced another PAX without, but business has to go on. I don't know. Capitalism, whatever. We could spend another hour breaking down the hows and whys of why all this stuff has to happen, even though all that stuff is still upon us. I've been masking up. I've been, going to the store and wearing a mask. It's, I'm in California, and it's still like as soon as the mandate was lifted, it was like, oh, no one's wearing masks anymore. Like it's you still see. I was in a shopping center. I was in Target. I was in Target, and there was a handful of other people wearing masks, and I immediately felt a kinship. I was like, yeah, they're all right. But, I got kids, and they're young, and they can't get vaccinated, and I think there's a part of me that's like, hey, we're all eventually going to get that stuff. We're eventually going to catch it. People catch colds. People catch the flu. If this thing ain't going away, everyone's going to get it. But I worry about my children. Weird as that might sound. So yeah, I don't know. That's been kind of a lot of the other stuff that's been on my mind is, we kind of just figure out like, hey, what are we okay, this is an outdoor event. We can go do this, but like, are we going to bring our kids to an indoor event with a bunch of unmasked kids and all this other stuff? And, like trying to figure out what is right and what is safe and what is not is a very blurry line these days. And so that's been, very frustrating. And, I think it's like, I understand the mentality of people who are just like, whatever, I got vaccinated and I'm going to go to shows and I'm going to go to movies and I'm going to go do this. And I look at it and go like, man, I want to fucking do that. But I have kids and so, we have to be a lot more careful. Young kids, kids that are old enough to get vaccinated and all that other stuff. I think that maybe that's a different situation, but also, I don't know, you still hear about bad outcomes, even amongst vaccinated people and all that sort of stuff. So it's, well, whatever. I don't know that I have much to add on this topic other than I've been hand wringing about this, stuff for a very long time, and I have not stopped because it is not over. And so that's been, occupying a lot of brain power over the last couple of years, Well, that's a cheery topic. Why don't we get into some video games? Do I have here? Why don't we get into some video games? Oh, I turned them. Oh, I had music all ready for this. I had music. You know what? Why don't we take a break for a word from our sponsors, and we'll come back and we'll talk about video games. Stay tuned. You know, sometimes when you're on the go, you are frantically just trying to eat as you dash from one thing to the next. It's led to a lot of just like, what am I going to get into? Protein shakes instead of a meal. Am I going to get into protein powder? Those weird candy bars that taste a little bit like dirt or something. Like how am I going to sustain myself as I am going from place to place? Am I driving somewhere? Am I doing something? Am I just trying to get a good breakfast in before I, run in and get to work? Right? I mean, it can be crazy. But hey, there's a fast, good, delicious way to just like have a quick breakfast that isn't going to fill you full of garbage. I'm talking about breakfast cereal. But wait, I'm talking about Magic Spoon. Now, Magic Spoon is a different type of cereal, but they offer the same delicious flavors that you might find in your supermarket. They've got a variety pack. The 4 flavors in that variety pack. What do we got? We got cocoa. We got fruity. We've got frosted. And we've got peanut butter. Now, those are cereal ass words right there. You know what I mean? You hear those, you go like, I know what cereal tastes like. I know what I want out of a fruity or a frosted cereal. But it's what you don't get with Magic Spoon. This variety pack has 0 grams of sugar in it. It's got 13 to 14 grams of protein and only 4 net grams of carbs. It's only 140 calories per serving. And it's keto friendly. It's gluten free. It's grain free. It's soy free. And it's low carb. That's right. They are making a cereal that is healthy, yet still delicious. It's weird how that works out. Because, look, you think about breakfast cereals, you think like, geez, I sure did put away an entire box of breakfast cereal at 2 a.m. while watching cartoons instead of, watching proper Saturday morning cartoons. I'm just watching weird stuff on YouTube, I totally housed that entire box of cereal. That's probably not good. What if it was better? What if it wasn't full of all that garbage? That's where Magic Spoon comes in. And you can do all sorts of stuff with it. Look, hey, what do you want to do? You want to mix these flavors together? You can take a little frosted, pour it on top of the cocoa, maybe mix the peanut butter. That's the beauty of the variety pack. You've got flavors to mess with, and you can do whatever you want with it. Because this is America, Jack. Just if you're not in America, if you're somewhere else in the world, just nod along with me on that one. Okay? Look, it tastes like the cereal from your childhood, but it's nutritious. It's delicious, but it's super healthy. So bring some joy to your morning or your afternoon or the dead of night whenever you need cereal. Now you can have it without in the back of your mind going like, oh man, I really probably shouldn't be pumping this much sugar into my body at 3:30 in the morning. Now you don't have to because there's Magic Spoon. Go to magicspoon.com/Jeff to grab a variety pack and try it today. Be sure to use the promo code Jeff at checkout to save $5 off your order. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/Jeff and use the code Jeff to save $5 off. And thanks to Magic Spoon for sponsoring this episode. All right, we're back. Hi. Let's wait and talk about some video games. But first, some music, because you can't have video games without music. That's the wrong one. This is... I don't know what button I even pushed. Video games! They're back. Let's see. I'm just gonna let this drop. Okay. Here are your video games for June 7th, 2022. It's Diablo Immortal. Yeah, jeez. This is the game I've been messing with the past couple of weeks because I've been on the run a little bit, and it's a phone game and it is also a PC game, and I've played a little bit of it on both. I don't think it's very good. It's a mobile Diablo if you want that, and yeah, I don't know. They did some things to it to try to make it more friendly for mobile phones, and I look at that and go like, yeah, there's clearly some good ideas here about how to make an action, an action RPG, a Diablo-esque game, work on phones. They added in some auto navigation, like literally it'll show you footsteps on, where you need to step to go to where the next objective is, and you can just tap a button and it'll auto run, which is kind of crazy. But like effective. Again, it doesn't really handle dropouts too gracefully on your phone, which was kind of surprising to me. But since it's a network connected game, like it's sort of like MMO-esque in a way, where you're picking a specific server and you see other players running around all the time, and sometimes you see them attacking things that aren't there because they're kind of in their own instance fighting things, it seems like. That's my impression of it anyway. I don't know for sure if that's the case, but that's sure what it looks like. It's a mini Diablo game, and on that front, you look at it and go like, this is okay. It's not the worst, it's hard because it makes me want to go play Diablo 3 instead, because Diablo 3 is a better game, and I don't think I quite wrung every single little bit and piece out of Diablo 3. This Absolute Cardboard. Yeah, Diablo Junior is actually probably a pretty good way to put it. It feels like a simplified take on Diablo. You still have your abilities. You still have a lot of other things like that going on for sure, but it's then it also kind of gets its layer of microtransactions and other stuff laid over the top of it. That's been where the anger has come in, unsurprisingly. Because it's got a battle pass, and it's got gems you can buy, and it's got loot box-esque things and all sorts of other stuff like that, that is coming your way and hitting you over the head, kind of. Every time you log in for the day, it's like, you got your first kill of the day, and now click onto this menu and get your item, get some scrap metal, get your whatever it is. And that's really just an invitation to get into the menus and look at all the other mobile game stuff that it has. It's really kind of full of all those mobile game trappings, and that's where it kind of goes awry. I mean, obviously it's not twisting your arm and saying like, you got to spend money. And so the stories that have been going around about how much it might cost to level up all the way, like, you see one of those stories, I think, every year or so for some, whether it's a mobile game or console game or something that just, got its monetization super crummy, super wrong, super gross. But there is still a game there if you're not getting into that. It's not like it just is like, yep, you got to open this menu and spend money. And also, it's a loot game, so like, what? the idea of buying stuff, like the whole idea of buying cosmetics, especially cosmetics that redo your entire character in a game where the whole thing is, I picked up a cool axe. I want to see the cool axe on my character as I am cutting people with the cool axe. Like, you don't want to replace that with like, I bought a glowing sword and no matter what I have equipped, there's more glowing swords here forever. Like, that's pointless. You want to see your character change and grow and stuff as you play. So like the cosmetic stuff seems super pointless in a game like that. Just like a waste of money. I don't know who would do that. I'm sure people do, but you know, the money comes in like end game kind of legendary gem late game sort of stuff, and so that's where a lot of that nasty stuff comes in. And I'll tell you up front, I'm never gonna get to that point in the game, and that's okay. I don't know how far I'll get in the game, but probably not much further. We'll see. But I do still have it installed, so you know. We'll see. I don't know. This kind of gets into the news. Why don't we get into some news here? Diablo Immortal is skipping Netherlands. Sorry, some of this is like a couple of weeks old, obviously. You know, I haven't been on a podcast for a couple of weeks, so this is kind of news from that gap that I saw and was like, oh, that's interesting. That's something worth talking about. So some of this might seem slightly old. But yeah, Diablo Immortal skipping Netherlands and Belgium. Due to loot box legislation. There was a Blizzard post that got mirrored on Reddit that says, unfortunately, players in the Netherlands and Belgium will not be able to install Diablo Immortal due to the country's gambling restrictions. The loot boxes in the game are against the law in your country, so unless the gambling restrictions change, the game will not be released in the Netherlands and Belgium. It would be illegal for you to download the game in another country like France. If you manage to run the game, I cannot guarantee you will not be banned. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. And that's from someone on the GM team for Blizzard in Europe, going by the name Game Master Gronfindel. And that was a response to a ticket from the looks of things. So that's, you know, I think when you have to get out there and say like, hey, you can't download our game, and don't, or you might get banned. Like, that's just, that's not a good spot to be in for your video game. But you know, that's always the toss up with this stuff, right? You either are interacting with that stuff or you're not. And is the game any good if you don't interact with that stuff? I don't know for sure. Cause like I said, I don't think it's great on phones. I guess I'll say, it auto aims a lot of your attacks. It's a viable thing, but it's not something, I am not enjoying it on phones. I installed it on PC where it is still technically a beta. And I think the reason, well, I don't know. I guess I'm guessing as to the reason, but, the assets in that game don't look like they are ready to be seen on a full screen. I think that's part of it. But yeah, it looks grimy on PC, and they're calling it a beta there, and I think that makes a lot of sense. The controller support I have been unable to get working properly. But again, you know, and it actually does have controller support on phones, but I have not done that. It doesn't do JBick89 saying you were not able to do 60 frames per second on your phone. I was able to set it to 60 frames, but I couldn't set it to ultra quality on what is this, a 12 Pro Max? I forgot. I don't even remember what they just announced the 14s, right? Is that what we missed WWDC? Or maybe did they even announce phones? I know they announced a new MacBook Air, and for a minute I was like, "Hey, what if I got a new laptop?" And then I realized, like, I have not needed a laptop in ages. Since I stopped going to an office every day. Turns out, the powerful computer you sit in front of does all the things a laptop will do, except go places. Oh, no phones announced here, John? Okay, all right. Right. Yeah. Phones are always September. That's right. So this was here's the iOS drop. And then here's right. Yes. The cadence, the Apple cadence, that we all know and love. PlayStation State of Play happened again after this live broadcast. We're going to watch it. because I have not seen it, and I'm very excited to see it. But I did read up on Street Fighter 6 because I had to, because I needed to know. People seem excited. And that's cool. You know, I think the question I've been asking for a while is like, God, what's it going to take for Street Fighter to feel, you know, like after 5, and I know people like 5. I'm not like fully shitting on 5, but you know, I think I preferred 4. I don't know. 5 was not enough. Like, what do you do with Street Fighter 6? And I think the thing that I was always kind of excited about in the background was like, oh, this is going to be like slightly different people. This is going to be like Ono's not there. This is going to be, you know, there's probably an opportunity for kind of a new take on it. I think that Capcom probably wants more people to play Street Fighter than bought it last time out. And I think when you look at what they are announcing, I think it's clear that they are like really trying to focus on that wider audience. And that was my biggest thing with 5, is that it just fell down that esports hole so fast. And, you know, they didn't even launch with a single player story mode. And at the time, everyone was like, well, whatever, no one plays that anyway, blah, blah, blah. But it just kind of further shoved it down that kind of like competitive rabbit hole. And this is Street Fighter. You know, Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, more than any other fighting game, perhaps Tekken falls into this category now, feel like they have a much wider appeal than a fighting game should, because they have such a huge legacy and so many, like, this is the thing I think people forget, is when Street Fighter 2 was coming out and getting big, it wasn't like it was just fighting game. Like everyone played it. Everyone played a little bit of it. It wasn't to say that everyone was some murderer at it, but damn, Street Fighter 2 was popular in a Pac-Man Fever-esque like way for a time. That's a CES thing. When Capcom was showing the SNES version of Street Fighter 2 off for the first time, they had it on this big screen TV. And they had 2 of their like Capcom fight sticks set at a podium, you know, a distance from the TV, and people just lined up through the expo hall to get a chance to play Street Fighter 2. And it was just like all these dudes in suits, and none of them had any idea. Most of them had no idea what they were doing, and all this sort of stuff. And it was super fun. But like Street Fighter 2 is a massive game that a lot of casual players should be able to get into. And I think that's the thing that Mortal Kombat has done really well with its story. You know, people love the characters. You know, there are people that are not going to EVO that are getting, you know, they're still willing to get a Mortal Kombat tattoo somewhere, for example. And Street Fighter should, and I think does in a lot of ways, have that level of popularity, but you kind of wouldn't know it with how Street Fighter 5 kind of rolled out and how people talked about it and all this other stuff. So I have to imagine, without refreshing my memory on sales numbers and all that sort of stuff, that everything I heard about it not doing as well as they certainly wanted it to probably held up all the way through the end of that game's run. And yeah, so with Street Fighter 6, I think them showing like, hey, we've got a cool this mode you're walking around and doing stuff, and again, I haven't watched the video of it because I want to wait until we watch the state of play, which is silly, but it's silly right now when I should be able to talk to you in depth about Street Fighter 6, but I'm still a little bit behind. But hey, you know, week 1, we'll get there. But yeah, the whole thing just seems like a much smarter way to put out a game that you want a lot of people to play, right? And to that end, they are doing what if you had told me this 20 years ago, I would have been pissed. I would have been like, oh, I would have been that asshole about it. But they are adding a new control mode to the game that lets you kind of map your specials to a button press and a direction. So they just have an option which you can have a special button. Instead of having to do your quarter circles, you can just tap that button, or tap forward in that button, or tap back in that button. So I guess in the Ryu example, tapping the button throws a fireball, forward and the button does a dragon punch, and back and the button does a hurricane kick, and your normals are reduced to like an MVC style, like light, medium, heavy. So you don't have differentiation between punches and kicks, which I'm sure players on the Genesis will love. And so this is not that different from the control scheme that they used for Capcom versus SNK 2 EO, which was the GameCube and Xbox version of CVS2. And EO is EO stood for easy operation. And it was unthinkable at the time when that game came out that they would do such a thing. And I think what they did there, if I remember correctly, it was that they put the specials onto the right stick. So it was like if you tapped up on the right stick, you would do a dragon punch, and forward for a fireball, like stuff like that. So it's not identical, but it's the same basic idea. And at the time, I remember just being fucking furious. I was like, God, how could they do this? They're making these games for idiots now. And that was 20 years ago. It was a very different time. And I think if we look at if you look at kind of the road that fighting games have been on, and you look at the different ways they want to try to get people into fighting games, I think this now makes sense. And I think it's that realization of just like, oh yeah, I guess like for players that are good at fighting games, the being able to perform the motions effectively, being able to execute is not the problem. They can do that all day long. So it might as well be a button for them. So why not make it something that anyone can do? As someone who could, when that game came out in arcades, I could not do a dragon punch to save my life for probably 6 months. And so I played Guile and Chun-Li because I wanted to just play charge characters, because that I could do. And, reliably throwing fireballs, reliably throwing out dragon punches and stuff like that was beyond me. And so Twain, he was saying there are absolutely execution errors pros make. Of course there are, but like they also get the benefit of having all the buttons and all that sort of stuff. So I think leveling that playing field across different skill levels has just become smart. And I think that it's something that when you look at the different types of devices players use to play fighting games, your hitboxes and all this other stuff, like it doesn't seem like something that will lend a huge advantage to players that use it, because at the end of the day, Street Fighter becomes the mind game, right? How you win fights is certainly there's execution involved, certainly all that sort of stuff, but it's the strategy, it's what do you do when, how well do you do it, and it's execution on combos. The game will have auto combos and other stuff like that. You have to imagine that those are not going to be optimal. But we'll see. And so I don't know. Like I think when you think about like Rolling Thunder and just some of the other ways that fighting games over the last 5-10 years have tried to open up their secrets to a wider array of players, this seems like a good thing. This seems like a good thing for for fighting games. But again, we'll see. Either way, like looking at that game and some of the other stuff that they're showing and the screenshots that I looked at, like I am excited about it. They announced yesterday, I believe, that it is going to take place post Street Fighter 3, which is also super exciting in a way. Like I don't necessarily love the cast of weirdos in Street Fighter 3, but it's time to move on and stop trying to cram and shoehorn more games into that Bison hole where they're like, oh, whoops, we killed Bison. Let's set these games before Bison died so we can still have Bison in it. And I don't know. On some level, like I would still love to see them make an Alpha 4 and whatever that would even be at this point. Because like, honestly, Street Fighter 6 seems like it has like Alpha Counter-esque things in it. And that sort of stuff, but I loved Alpha 2 and Alpha 3, so it's I'm always in the back of my head, even though Like there's part of me that's always going to be like, they should make Alpha 4, but like, what does that even mean? I don't even know. Like it's like even earlier in the timeline. Who knows what they would even do. Also in the news, there's a new Minecraft game in development. And I don't know if this is something that's going to get announced at Microsoft's event, but there's a new Minecraft spin-off in the works. Microsoft appears to be testing it out and putting it out under a code name and all that sort of stuff from the basic descriptions. And I got to see a couple of screenshots of it. It seems like it is a real-time strategy game, an RTS of sorts. But the difference is you're controlling a Steve-esque unit on the field and ordering your units around in a third-person view. And you're taking on piglins, and they'll have a story and cutscenes and all this other stuff. The report I saw was that a lot of those kind of seemed unfinished. The game's not done, obviously. Hasn't even been announced yet. So it seems like it was far enough along that perhaps it's something that Microsoft will be announcing sometime over the next week or so here. But who the hell knows? I don't know what their plans are for it. I just kind of saw the screens and got kind of a rough breakdown of what it looked like. I mean, I think they're smart to do more Minecraft spin-offs. Minecraft Dungeons seems like it did insanely well for them, and they supported the heck out of it. They should do more with it. So I think for me, my problem with Minecraft Dungeons was that it didn't really, you didn't build, you didn't get blocks, you didn't do stuff. And so an RTS where maybe you're kind of like building units or ordering units around, you're building, I assume you're going to build spawners and build stuff to make units to send off to battle and get resources and the things you do in a game like that. That seems like just a better fit for what I think of as Minecraft, right? I mean, or what I think of as like a viable thing to do with Minecraft. So is it Total Annihilation, but Minecraft? That was where I went with it. Some people were saying Sacrifice and RimWorld. Okay, yeah. And all that. Yeah. What else are people in chat saying? Yeah. So it's like Overlord. Yeah. Overlord. Sure. Maybe that ends up being a better comparison point than TA. I am always going to talk about Total Annihilation whenever I can. Cause that game was that Total Annihilation. They put out, this is how old that game was. This is how Total Annihilation, they put out new units for that game and had magazines debut them exclusively. Like, this CD that comes with our magazine is going to come with 2 more units for TA. And you're like, this game already has like fucking 3 billion fucking units. Like, what are we even doing? Yeah, I don't know. Seems like you fight piglins. There was an interesting, as I was kind of like looking around to see like, is there any hint of this out there? I found a PC Gamer story from 2019 called "Here's what Minecraft would look like as an RTS." I'll paste this link in the chat if people want to actually see the story for themselves. But someone named Brendan Sullivan, who applied to work at Mojang. That's Mojang. As an artist, on the art test, he was asked to reimagine the look and style of Minecraft for a hypothetical new game, and then he went and developed a prototype RTS game in Minecraft. And there's a couple of there's a screenshot of what he worked on. He got the job. I can't imagine that this is the thing that led to them going on and making some kind of RTS or something, but who knows? I don't know. I'm excited to see more of it, and hope we'll see more of it soon. The couple of screenshots that I saw, it's kind of like it looked interesting, but also it was like slightly hard to wrap your head around. Seems like the sort of thing that you really want to see in motion to get a sense of like, okay, what are we really doing here? How am I build? Like, what's the interface look like? What am I doing to build units? What am I really making happen here? So hopefully they'll have more to say about that soon, because I would like to know more. Yu Suzuki, you've heard of him. He's not just making Shenmue. Thank God. Yu Suzuki, of course, legendary designer for Sega, has a new game coming out this month for Apple Arcade. And I guess I'm going to sign back up for Apple Arcade because he sure is making a game that looks a whole hell of a lot like a new Space Harrier. Except you play as a lady with some kind of laser crossbow looking thing. It's called Air Twister. It's from, I guess we'll call it this is another thing I have never heard pronounced. Is it YSNet? Because every time I see the letter Y followed by the letter S, I think ease. Oh, it's part of the, so I think, oh, EaseNet. And I'm like, wait, no, his initials are Yu Suzuki's initials are YS. So it's probably not EaseNet. It's probably YSNet, but who can say? Right up until this moment, it's been EaseNet in my head until I was like, oh, wait, why would it be that? He didn't make the East games. They put out a trailer. The bullets look like they're straight out of fucking Space Harrier. You fight a flying bone monster. It's got this ridiculous kind of bootleg Queen sounding song in the trailer. It looks like it has lock-on targeting, which original Space Harrier didn't have. Yeah, it's pronounced HughesNet. Yeah, HughesNet, of course. Yeah, it was a satellite leader. There's a whole lot of stuff in there that you look at and go like, oh, they're clearly trying to evoke Space Harrier here in some extremely specific ways. And I feel like they have not done a great job of following up on Space Harrier. At least like obviously there's been more kind of shooters in that vein, right? Rez is an amazing video game. Well, look, we've got a lot of time over the next 40 years or whatever to talk about how amazing Rez is. Panzer Dragoon, hell of a game. Like that style of game, obviously, has existed outside of Yu Suzuki's domain, and even though those are both Sega games. Planet Harrier is the one that kind of Planet Harrier is the one that kind of comes to mind as the true kind of follow-up to Space Harrier. It only came out in arcades. You can play it on a PC if you mess around long enough. And it's neat. I remember playing Planet Harriers in the office of Sega. The office I worked in used to be in the same building as Sega. And so you could go up to their lobby and they had just like 3 or 4 Naomi cabinets set up with whatever the latest thing was. And for a while they had Planet Harriers in there. And I played quite a bit of it there for free. And that was awesome. Soho Clan, what do I think of the faux Queen in the trailer? I like it. I wonder if that'll be the soundtrack or the style of music throughout the whole game. It's good. There are people riding giant geese in the trailer. It looks ridiculous. And then also like those bullets look straight out of Street Fighter, or straight out of Space Harrier rather. But much higher res, and the enemies look cool. Like, I thought I was out. I thought I was done. I was like, well, I'm certainly never going to sign up for Apple Arcade again after accidentally staying subscribed to it for a year or more, and not using it all that much. I was like, oh, I'm finally free. I finally remembered to cancel. I finally remembered to cancel my Apple Arcade subscription, and then here they come in a few short weeks here with Air Twister. So they will get me back. I will sign up. I will sign up to do that. I will definitely sign up to do that. I just realized I forgot to start an audio recording of this, and so I'm going to have to extract this audio from the video to put up the audio version of the show. That's all very doable. It's just command line stuff, but geez, I wish I would have done that. Well, what are you going to do? In other Sega news, they announced the existence of the Mega Drive Mini 2. This is going to be another mini console. They've only announced it for Japan, and I don't know. I assume this will come here in some form. But they're talking a bit about how it doesn't... that it is not going to, they're having trouble sourcing parts for it. and making enough of them. And this is also what kind of held back some of their, like, hey, maybe we should do a Saturn, maybe we should do a Dreamcast, maybe we should, it's like, hey, maybe we should wait until we can get parts, and then maybe we could do something like that. So they've announced this for Japan, and only Japan so far. We'll see. This seems like something that would definitely come over at some point, but we will see. I'm sure it'll have a somewhat different game library. The difference this time out is going to play 50 games, and it will include some Sega CD games. That's Mega CD games to you, including Sonic CD. And so they've announced 10, I guess actually this is technically 11 games here so far, according to Eurogamer. Bonanza Brothers. So it's not just Sega CD games. It's going to also have some Genesis games as well. Bonanza Brothers, Fantasy Zone, which I think that's a new port of Fantasy Zone to the Mega Drive, right? That's not, anyway. Magical Taruruto-kun, Mansion of Hidden Souls, Popful Mail, Shining Force CD, Shining in the Darkness, Sylphid, which is a cool shooter, Sonic CD, Thunder Force 4, which is a hell of a game, and Virtual Racing. Virtual Racing used that SVP chip, which makes it a little weirder compared to a lot of other Genesis games. At least I assume that's because there was a Virtual Racing for Sega CD, right? I need to look this up now, because maybe it's just that. Wasn't there a weird Time Warner in there? No. Okay. No. There was a 32X version. That's what it was. Okay. And then the SVP chip version was for the Mega Drive. So presumably that is going to be the Mega Drive version of the game. I'm not super familiar with Magical Taruruto-kun or Mansion of Hidden Souls. I know people seem to like those games, but they'll come out on this in Japanese, most likely. I don't know how playable they are if you don't read the language. So that'll be a thing. But presumably people will hack this and throw all kinds of whatever. You can hack the old one. It seems like this is going to be basically the same internals as the previous one from some of the talk that they had. A new option will be in there, I guess, to toggle the audio. So the Genesis changed sound a little bit over time to where the original Genesis sounded one way, the later Genesis sounded a different way. You bit of toggle between those, and that's cool. I don't know, the Mega Drive Mini, the Genesis Mini was pretty well received when it came out. I think those mini consoles are really neat, but I don't have a huge use for them. You know what I mean? I got a lot of ways to play those games, and I don't need a little separate box that I have to plug in just to play those games. And you can play a lot, but it's a good inexpensive way to get that stuff out there. So that's cool. Let's see. Before we get into the next story here, I just want to remind people, since it's the first episode and we don't have last week's emails to work with, you can send in some emails. I've already got a couple hundred here, so maybe don't. But you can send in your email to podcast@guard.bike if you want your email to be considered for the program, and we will get into it after we get through the news here. And if you're just joining us live, hi. Hey, I'm out here doing this. I'm here on Twitch. We're live right now, and you can hop on Discord if you want to join us there by signing up for Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Jeff Gerstmann to look at the offering there. You'll get an ad-free version of this program, as well as some additional benefits that I won't necessarily take a bunch of time going into right now because we're in the middle of a program. But hey, why don't we take another quick break? We'll come back and we'll get into the news. Again, double news. Double extra wide news. The fuck am I even talking about? All right, let's do it. It's time to get hard for the spring. and summer and the winter. I mean, the winter and fall, honestly, you want to be able to perform year round. So I know you're probably digging yourself out of a little bit of that winter hibernation, and spring is here and it's time to get sprung with Blue Chew. That's right. This episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. Whatever the season, if you've got a penis and it's not doing the thing that you want it to do, assuming that thing is get rock hard erect and ready for action and all that sort of stuff, then perhaps Blue Chew is for you. What is Blue Chew? Well, I'm glad I asked. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable tablets and at a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. You see that they wrote arises. See, they're talking. See, now when your dick gets hard, it's all right. Whatever, you understand. The process is very simple. Sign up at bluechew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part, it is all done online. So no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA, and they're prepared and shipped direct to your door in a discreet package. It's time to get off the couch and get back to work. And if your tool needs an upgrade, head to bluechew.com. Now, see, by tool, they mean your pecker, your dick, your wang. What do you, I don't know. There's so many, your penis. Are you having trouble with it? Is it fine? Hey, you just need a little bit of extra confidence. What are you trying to accomplish today? Is it fucking? Blue Chew is here for you. So if you could benefit from a little bit of extra confidence when it's time to perform, Blue Chew can help. And we've got a special deal for you, our listeners. You can try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code Jeff at checkout. You just pay $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com, promo code Jeff, to receive your first month free. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast. All right, coming back in. Huh. Do. I was trying to select some emails here during the break so that we would be ready when the time came. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. All right, that's okay. That's a good one. Let's star these ones as things that will probably be good without actually reading them. This one says bring back Brink reviews, which, yes, we're going to have a weekly review of the game Brink. All right. This is just more stuff I'm going to have to cut out later. Let's get back to the show. We'll blast through the rest of this news and then get on to emails. Hi, we're back. Welcome. We're in the middle of the news here. It's time for the rest of the news. Hi. Summer Game Fest, the ersatz replacement for E3 happening this year. They went ahead and announced a list of participating companies. And then Jeff Keighley, who is the mastermind behind the whole show, has kind of got out there to kind of set expectations about what you can expect to see later this week. Oh geez, where did that go? So it's here. Video Games Chronicle has put together this list of companies here. So the lineup includes, and I'm trying to figure out if this is going to be all stuff that will show up in Jeff's show, or if this is going to be stuff across the board. I think this is stuff set for Jeff's show specifically, if I'm reading this right. So that list: 2K, Activision, Atlas, Bandai Namco, Bloober Team, Capcom, Coffee Stain, Deep Silver, Devolver Digital Extremes, .mu, Electronic Arts, Epic, Focus Entertainment, Frost Giant Studios. That's one of the 700 studios of ex-Blizzard people that are out there working on something. Looking forward to seeing that. Level Infinite, Mediatonic, MiHoYo, Netflix, PlayStation, Raw Fury, Samsung, Sega, Square Enix, Skybound Games, Steam, Studio MDHR, Tribeca Festival, Warner Brothers, and Xbox. That's a pretty decent list. And, I think, Capcom announced their own separate thing. And, of course, Capcom had a thing in Sony's State of Play show. And Sony's not on this list. Oh, yeah, PlayStation is on this list. So I wonder if this is meant to kind of encapsulate all of the people doing shows as well as stuff that Jeff will have himself. He's been getting on Twitter Spaces, which still exists. I can't even remember the name of the app that kicked off that whole thing of we've got to have we got to have a audio stage. Clubhouse. Thank you, Sir 5000. Yes, Clubhouse was fun, but also weird crypto creeps all over it. And then when Twitter Spaces rolled out, it still seems like it's just crawling with crypto scum. It's like, So when people use it for things that are not that, and it shows up at the top of my feed, and it's like someone is running or listening to a thing, I just look at it and go what are you doing? NFT weirdos. But no, he got on there to talk about kind of his plans, and did say that there will be world premieres and stuff like that. You can't have Jeff Keighley don't show up without, he keeps world premieres in his pants. He's just like, you cannot have Keighley walk out on a stage without some man saying world premiere. So, there'll be that. He says he's got Callisto Protocol, which they showed a little bit off of the Sony thing, I believe, right? They're going to show Modern Warfare 2, Gotham Knights, the Cuphead DLC, which is out very soon. Dwayne The Rock Johnson will be there. That seems like it's Fortnite related. And But yeah, he does say, the quote here that Video Games Chronicle pulled is, what I would say is that a lot of the games we're going to show you are going to be already announced. Games are going to show new content to you, like some of the ones I've mentioned. I think that makes sense for this year. People always want to go nuts, right? People are always like, this is 9,000 different games are going to get announced. But if you think about the backlog of the log jam, if you will, of games that keep getting announced and pushed and announced and pushed, like what Starfield got pushed, like there's just more stuff pushing into 2023. And so it doesn't make sense to announce a ton of more games right now when all of your other games got pushed into the next year. So I think this is like, if this cadence keeps up, I think that's probably like long-term good, not the delay, but if the cadence of like when a game gets announced and shown and when it comes out and all that other stuff, I think if we can tighten that up a little bit and not have these announcements that are just like, I don't know, we went to a trailer company and had them animate a crazy thing. I drew out on some napkins, here's a guy with a sword, and then he's sick as fuck. And then you see I've written sick as fuck under it. And then I handed it off to the animatics team. And then they worked for months and months on making this awesome asset that you look at and go, that's cool as shit. When's the game out? And then everyone just goes, fucking 2023. How far along is the game? So I say we need to bring back percentages in preview coverage. The old like EGM thing. I want to say like Famitsu did it as well, but I don't know who actually started that. But it's always that ridiculous concept of like at the top of the preview, the little info block about like, well, here's when the game's coming out, and here's the name, and here's who's publishing it, and it's 60% complete. Like, what is that bullshit number? Like, we need to get back to that. And so, like, when they walk out with Starfield 2 years ago, they're like, it's 7% complete. Or whatever. I don't know. Like, how does game development work? No one really knows. I think a lot of people that are in it are just still just like, God, what? So many moving parts. I think that's the thing. You know, it's a lot of people are so quick to just like shit all over game developer. Like the whole like lazy devs thing is just like so crazy to me. Games are such weird moving targets of so many different interlocking systems. The producers that hold them together and try to keep people on schedule. That's insane. I wouldn't be able to do that. Maybe I would be able to do that, but it's a specific discipline of trying to keep all that shit on track. And so that's, I feel like the thing I learned over the last, let's call it decade plus, the things I've learned since like 2008, because that was when I really started probably doing more interviews or just was in a position that was not just reviews focused. And so I found myself talking directly to a lot more game developers. And I think the main lesson I learned over that time is that making games is fucking hard as hell. It's a miracle that things ship. And so, yeah, I think that's it's, you try to keep the criticism to the games, right? And not the people. Sometimes the people are deserving of a different type of criticism depending on what they're out there doing, but you know what I mean? It seems very, very difficult to make video games. And so I don't know, it's a damn miracle that any of these things come out. And so when you think about the crazy curveballs that this business has been thrown out, if the world, right? I mean, God, you talk about things that might have been different if the pandemic hadn't happened. Like I might have been out here doing this, talking to you about 2.5 years ago. But yeah, it's, a lot of crazy shit has happened over since that pandemic started. So since that damn pandemic started, the fuck am I talking about? And so trying to keep projects on course when you're like, we don't even know how many people are going to be able to buy consoles by now. What Sony was out there was like saying 20 million PlayStation 5s are out there. That's pretty awesome. That's a good number. If every single person bought a PlayStation 5 game and you had 20 million sales on a game, you'd be like, we did pretty damn good. I'm sure you get a fraction of that and still feel like, hey, we're doing pretty good, And so like the weird ramp up these consoles have had, you know, I think that's my, let's try and start a Twitch poll here because I'm curious. I'm curious how polls work. Let's see if we can do it. Assuming you bought one of the new consoles, are you using it? Oh man. Okay. I'm going to have to like voice this question to you because it won't let me type the whole thing in. So just, you're here watching this right now. You will, if you bought one of those new consoles, are you using it as much as you thought you would? And I'm just going to make the question, are you? And then we'll run a poll here. And that's just a straight up yes, no. Are you using that? Are you using that console as much as you thought you would? I am not. I am not using either the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Series X as much as I thought I would be, but I am in a different. My use case is obviously very different, right? Like, you know, that's the thing about being in this business is, you know, like I will get games like when companies contact us and say, hey, we want to send you a game. Sometimes they will ask, which platform do you want? Sometimes they will just send codes. And so it's just kind of like whatever, wherever. That was the thing, not to just drag up a bunch of old discourse, but hey, this is our clean slate episode 1 of the podcast. You know, a lot of people in a similar line of work as mine, whatever that even is now. What do I write on forums? Self-employed, I guess. I don't know. PM. No. About the viability of Game Pass. Like, is Game Pass still good? And it's really hard. I think Game Pass is a great value. And I think there are a lot of great games on it. And I think that there are a lot of great smaller games on there that a lot of people might not check out otherwise. I mean, frickin' Tunic was on Game Pass. Tunic is the best game I have played this year. Maybe that will change. We are only about halfway through. I hope it does, because I would love to play more outstanding fucking video games. But God, Tunic is good. Holy shit, Tunic is good. If you have not played Tunic, I know they just announced it for PlayStation for like September. Well, you should check out Tunic. It is on Game Pass on either PC or Xbox. And Game Pass like seems like an outstanding value. But on some level, I have to say, seems like an outstanding value, right? Because I get a lot of games coming my way. And so oftentimes, by the time something is on Game Pass, I have maybe been playing it on Steam for a week or something because we got codes early or and that sort of stuff. So I think it's a little bit difficult to judge the viability of Game Pass based on how often someone like me uses it, and someone in this line of work of covering games, journalism, like all that sort of stuff, how often they use Game Pass is going to be weird and skewed because I think a lot of people in that line of work end up having a lot of different ways that they access games, sometimes pre-release, sometimes at release. And so it's just, it's very skewed. And so I don't mean that to like, you know, shit on anyone who said that. I don't even remember how all this talk started. It was just like one of those things that just struck me funny about like, really? I'm just going to shit on Game Pass? Like I think I get the kind of like light hand wringing around the idea of Game Pass and what it does to the industry long term and all that sort of stuff. I think I understand when people go like, is this going to end up being weird for smaller games? Like maybe, I don't know, maybe. But you have to look at it, you know, like Microsoft is pretty firm saying like, no, this is actually like, it is better for games. They are doing more, you know, we're seeing more hours, we're seeing more this, we're seeing more that. Like they've been very firm on that talking point for some time. But there's something about the value of a game, the idea of you sunk money into a game. That's the thing growing up. And when we get into the Jeff Gerstmann Hall of Fame, a new monthly show that I will record the first episode of later this month. You're going to find a lot of games that I played because I owned them, because I had money in on them, because I had to play them, because these were the games I owned. And games were and are expensive. Obviously, games are at much different price points now than they ever were before, and I think that's incredible. Because it's so much easier for people out there to just play a lot of video games. And growing up, that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to play a lot of video games. Good, bad, what I just wanted to play fucking video games, man. And so there's kind of never been a better time to play a lot of fucking video games, because there are a lot of different ways to do that that don't involve you going out and spending $50, $60 every time you want to try one new, or going to Toys R Us and lying to them and trying to return a game after you beat it. So anyway, but you will find that like there are a lot of games that stick out to me that are just broken and terrible. And, you know, like you look at them now, you're like, what is this? It's like, I own that game. I played the shit out of it because that's what I did that summer, because I had to play something. Damn it. So I played this. So I played Flicky on the Genesis. So I played Zillion for the Master System, even though I didn't have the manual for it for some reason, you know? And so I guess my point is like, I just, it's awesome that people have that access to games. I get why people are wary about it, because I think people look at Spotify and have this impression of just like, man, musicians are not getting paid shit. Is that going to happen to game developers? Is that going to happen? There's a lot of good reason to look at the business right now and at least be a little suspect of it. Even though I think, at the end of the day, I don't think we have all the numbers to really make that call, right? Fully. And so you can only really look at it from the consumer angle. And that's where I come down and like, hey, you have an opportunity out there to get access to a lot of video games, and that's cool as shit. The business behind it, will it be good or bad long term? Again, we will have to wait and see on some of that stuff. That stuff is ever shifting. Sony obviously is out there trying to pull the like, well, I don't think we'd be able to invest in our games the way that we invest in our games if we put all our games out day one. And for them, maybe that makes sense. Maybe that adds up, because their games are primarily they're obviously they're changing that, right? Sony wants to get into games as a service super fucking deep. And so maybe this will be different later. But they would rather get $70 out of you for Horizon than $0 additional dollars. And they, so they would love for you to buy that game at full price. And that probably a lot of their budgeting and stuff, I'm sure, is built around that stuff. But, hey, everyone runs their business differently, right? Activision has been running its business very differently in a lot of different ways for a while. But the specific part of it we're going to focus on right now is Battle.net. They have taken their games off Steam for years and years, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, some assets for it showed up on the Steam back end. This is artwork that showed up on Reddit that I guess someone dug out of somewhere. Hey, we just 3,000 patrons. I just thank you so much. It sounds like live here in the chat, we've just hit 3,000 patrons on Patreon. That's so awesome. I just it's been a fucking crazy time. And I'm very excited to get out here and do this directly for you. Because at the end of the day, this is what I love doing. I love podcasts. I love podcasts. I love the concept of podcasting. Before there were podcasts, I wanted to do radio, and I did do radio for a while back in the early days. I have a tape of it somewhere that I should probably put out somewhere. And, we did it was actually a radio show for, it was like we were part of Ziff, and so they had the official PlayStation magazine at the time, and we were doing the official PlayStation radio show. It was like me and Joe Fielder and Lauren Gonzalez, then Lauren Fielder at the time, and someone from David Lawrence. It's the guy who did the radio stuff on Saints Row 1, I believe. Was the radio guy who ran the show. And we did a weekly show for them for a while that was us talking about like interviewing people that were making games for PlayStation, all this other stuff. It was a little weird because it was like platform specific, but we did that forever ago. Even before that, a few of us were doing a weekly radio show. This is when I was like 16 or 17 or something like that. And we were doing a radio show about games on a local radio station. It was a Christian station, and they wanted like teen talk in the afternoons, and we were teens. So they let us take over their fucking radio station for an hour or so. And that was very, so we did that for a while. Check it out. It's at patreon.com/Jeff Gerstmann. And we're building this thing, and I'm very excited to be out here, making this happen. So thanks again. And if you sign up for the Patreon, you'll get on the Discord, and it is lively over there on monitor left, on the Discord monitor. Where let's see. It's yes, everyone scram. The fuzz is here. That's right. And over here on monitor right in the Twitch chat, hello, hi. I've got a lot of Nightbot commands to set up and a bunch of other things. Panels. I don't know. What am I doing? I signed up for Cameo. What? So yeah, I don't know. We're just fucking out here, just fucking doing shit. So thanks everyone. Let's keep going. Call of Duty looks like it might return to Steam. I think that's great. I'm not one of these guys that thinks that every single game needs to be on Steam. But at the same time, I think it makes sense for a franchise that has maybe been losing a little bit of steam lately. They should put it out in more places. And so limiting it to just BattleNet when they want to sell as many copies as possible. Feed pics? You want feed pics? Gamer checks? You want feed? I don't think we're gonna do that. I don't think we're gonna do that. No OnlyFans at this time. But thanks for asking. Call of Duty should go to Steam. Everything should be kind of everywhere, I think, unless I get why exclusive arrangements happen for Epic as they're trying to get more people to pay attention to their store. If you break that down, really think about the whole outrage that people have over games going to Epic. It's weird because I think on some level people don't want a monopoly, and people say that loudly, and then when a store tries to make itself more viable through a lot of different means, people are mad about that too. I think there's kind of no winning on that, but I guess I look at it as the Epic store product, the Epic client is it needs more. It needs more work. I mean, obviously Steam has had a lot longer of a time. Like Steam 1.0, the first few years of Steam, people still don't like Steam in a lot of ways, honestly. But you look at Steam today and they've bolted on all these community features and badges and all this other stuff. And, it took them a long time to get there. So I guess on some point you're like, well, yeah, I guess it'll take Epic time to get there. But then Epic is also making Fortnite money. And you look at it and go why don't you just solve that problem? You're Epic. Aren't you the biggest? Can't you just do that? I don't. Again, things are hard. I get it. I have definitely been on the end of people going can't you just do that? And that's a funny thing about that. Sony has confirmed that they are working on some new television shows based on God of War, Horizon, and Gran Turismo. Sure. Why not? This is according to a Japan-based analyst and investment advisor named David Gibson, via Video Games Chronicle, saying that Amazon has secured the streaming rights to a God of War series and that Netflix has picked up a Horizon series. And that Gran Turismo... Okay. There's an update here saying that Gran Turismo is a film and not a television show, and that Neil Blomkamp is potentially involved in directing that. That's weird. Of course, this is not the first time we've heard about a live-action God of War TV series. This is just kind of like furthering that. This makes sense. I mean, if Sony makes their big prestige story-driven games, their big single-player experiences, and they try to make them very story-heavy and lore-heavy and all this other stuff, I think it makes sense to try to spin those things out into larger projects. I mean, the God of War franchise obviously has... there's a lot of them. They have made a lot of those, and they have put story in each and every one. That's the kind of insight you expect. There's story in the God of War games. Breaking. God of War Ragnarok will have story in it. Horizon's a more interesting one there because, they're 2 games in. They've got a really interesting universe that they've kind of told. There are a couple of stories in here. They're going to do that VR thing. I have not finished the second Horizon game. I fell off it so hard after, I probably got about halfway through it, a little bit more. I guess I don't know for sure because I haven't finished it, but I got to a point where it was like, okay, now I see where this is going. Now let's get out here and wrap it up. And then getting out there to move it along just was taking so long. I kind of just fell off of it. It's a shame. I thought that first game was very good. And then, Elden Ring came out and I played some of that and ultimately didn't really stick with that too much either. Elden Ring's very cool. I don't know. I wonder if I'll get back to it. I wonder if I will get back to Elden Ring. I don't know that I will. It's very well made, but there's a lot of other stuff that I think I'd probably rather play. I guess like sitting right here right now, I would actually rather go back and finish Horizon than try to dip back into Elden Ring. And that's probably because to dip back into Elden Ring probably means I'm going to restart Elden Ring because it's been quite some time since I've played it. And so jumping back in where I am, I would then suck shit again for another 50 hours or whatever it is. A Horizon TV show, I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Like, what do you do with that, right? You could... Are you telling another Aloy story? Are you casting someone as Aloy in that? Or are you trying to tell some big side story? Well, but like, she is so the main character of that universe, even in the fiction, that it would be very weird to be like, well, while the lady was out there doing her thing, we were over here fighting about this. Like, that's probably not a hugely compelling thing. I mean, there's, to me, the fascinating stuff about the Horizon universe was always the stuff from the before times, the artifacts you were finding, the fall of society. Oh, that's a pretty depressing TV show, isn't it, though? I don't know if I want that right now, but like telling some kind of story around the scientists trying to save the world from a climate. Yeah, I don't know that I want that either. That sounds fucking depressing as shit. The origin story of why Horizon happened is actually more depressing by the week, right? So maybe not that either. But hey, this is why I didn't go and write television, because I have no idea what I would do with that. A Gran Turismo movie? A Gran Turismo movie? Just say that out loud. A Gran Turismo movie. We're adapting Gran Turismo for a movie. I hope it just takes place at the cafe in GT7. That it's just like you are going to the cafe and having extremely chill conversations with people that know way too much about cars, and then they're going out and racing, and they're just quietly smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee at this cafe, and there's zero conflict. It's just like, that was a good race. We didn't crash once. Cool. Everyone stuck to their driving line. Cool. All right. Well, good race, everybody. Let's come back tomorrow and race again. I don't know. Is it? Obviously, you could use an auto race as the backdrop for just about any kind of movie you want. Maybe they're just going to make a sequel to the hit Sylvester Stallone film Driven. That'd be nice. No, it wouldn't. That'd be dumb. But like, yeah, I don't know. A Gran Turismo film seems. I guess like they said it was a Gran Turismo TV show, I assumed it was going to be like, and we're going to follow, and they've kind of done this before. The notion of like, well, we're going to follow someone's journey from playing the video game into racing in real cars and go through that reality show kind of process. And I think that makes perfect sense for that franchise and how they try to present it and all this other stuff, right? As you go like, hey, we're going to make this for real. And we're going to train people on Gran Turismo, the video game, and then they're going to go out and race in real life. And isn't that awesome? And I think that would be cool. I think like actually like trying to tell a story set against the backdrop of auto races, whatever, that's been done a million times. Like, what does the Gran Turismo name bring to that other than a scene where someone's getting their car washed? Maybe they'll put the car wash music in it. I mean, they didn't put it in the game. So, maybe that's a strong opportunity for us. Who can say? But that would be my hope, is that the car wash music makes its way into Gran Turismo the movie. Madden's on the cover of Madden this year. John Madden passed away at the end of 2021, December 28th. And this hit me a lot harder than I guess I thought it would. But I guess when you think about it, I don't know. John Madden is it's been such a constant, not only in the world of football, right? But like every dang year, there's a moment, and it's not what it used to be. The industry has changed, but the release of John Madden Football was always the marker. It was like, okay, here we go. Video games are going to start coming out again because it's August. We're going to get into the holiday release schedule. That dry summer is over. John Madden has shown his face, and we love him for it. And now it is time for video games. So even as someone who doesn't really, I mean, the last time I really liked a simulation style football game, it was on the Genesis, and it was like Madden and Joe Montana football. Probably more Joe Montana football, if I'm being honest, but what are you gonna do? But the existence of Madden, it's like one of those set your watch type of moments for this business. And as such, it still holds this kind of outsized influence in my mind that, maybe it doesn't deserve anymore. I don't know. It doesn't sound like people have been super happy with the last handful of Madden releases, but what else is new, right? But yeah, they're putting him on the cover of Madden NFL 23, and I get why people are like, oh, they're only doing this because he passed away, and they're doing this. And yeah, but also it is right. It is the right thing to do. Yes, as A1 Stakesa says over in the Discord, showing the cover of Madden 2000 for the N64, which has John Madden on it. And he's very just like, he's like, no pass interference out there, you guys. So they're doing a few different covers for the game, depending on which super expensive version of the game you buy, I guess. And, they'll have different versions of Madden on the box art. And I just think that's cool. I don't know. It's, there's a quote here that Polygon has from Mike Mahar, the senior producer for the series. It says, there's so many ways that we're trying to live up to, aspire to the legend that Coach Madden was in our game this year. And the interactive first experience of the game, which is what you play as the game's installing, will be two generations of all Madden NFL stars against each other, both sides coached by Madden as he appeared in different periods of his career. It seems like a relatively minor thing, but I don't know. You know, at the end of the day, it is still going to be a modern football game. It's they're right to put Madden on the cover of this video game, and I get the criticism about it, but at the same time, it feels very right to me, and I do like that they're doing that. I like that they're doing that. GoldenEye achievements have been posted to Xbox.com. This is another one of those worst kept secrets sort of jobs, right? I mean, hey, GoldenEye is going to come out for the Xbox at some point here. Hell, you can play it on an Xbox 360 right now if you are so inclined. But yes, achievements for the game have shown up on Xbox.com. They've still not really confirmed or announced this. And there seems to be some thinking that this may eventually appear on the Switch as well in some form, which makes sense. Both Nintendo and Microsoft, I think, have a piece of that game. I think being able to, if they put online multiplayer in this thing and let you play GoldenEye on the internet with people, with up-res graphics or whatever it ends up being, that's fun. That's a cool addition. I think that's pretty neat. I don't know. And these, I don't know. Let's look at these achievements real quick here. Is it going to let me? It's going to be like, you're not logged into. Oh, they hidden it? They hid it. Looks like they have taken it down. Anyway, it was a lot of like, you finished this level on 00 Agent and stuff like that. So I was like, this is clearly GoldenEye. GoldenEye Source. Yeah. Fire Hair 12,000. I remember playing some GoldenEye Source when that came out. GoldenEye was an amazing video game of its time, and whatever. I won't go through the whole argument again. I don't think it held up super well. But when that Xbox 360 version of it leaked, I did look at it a little bit there, and I was like, oh, you know what? When you play this on a modern controller, it feels okay when you adapt it to more modern controls and all of that sort of stuff. Like it's less annoying than it is to play on an N64 controller for sure. Nintendo has announced that they're skipping Gamescom. This is the German, this is in Cologne in Germany. This is an annual show that kind of was the talk to E3's tick. If you didn't have your game ready for E3, you saved it for Gamescom, and so on. And they have given a quote. This is Video Games Chronicle has this via a German site called Gameswirtschaft. Which is a bummer because that was one of the names I was trying to trademark and couldn't get it. So unfortunately, here we are. What they said here, and I believe this is a translation, Gamescom is a key event in Nintendo's calendar of events. This year, however, after careful consideration, we have decided against participating in Cologne. Instead, players will be able to try out the games for Nintendo Switch at numerous events throughout Germany. And they have announced a handful of different things. They have a tour bus that they will bring to the Stuttgart Children and Youth Festival. And they are participating in the Main Matsuri Japan Festival in Frankfurt. And the Dokomi in Dusseldorf. And the Animagic in Mannheim. Further tour stops and activities are being planned. And we look forward to seeing our fans again at many regional events. I wonder why this is. If this is just like a, hey, Gamescom is a little weird this year. Video Games Chronicle does note that, Gamescom hasn't really announced a ton of publishers for that event just yet. You're saying, Bad Game says Dokomi just happened. So I assume Nintendo was there with something. I don't know. Video Games Chronicle is saying that only a handful of publishers, including THQ Nordic and Koch Media, have confirmed their attendance. So we'll see what Gamescom ends up being. Nintendo's out, but they're going to show their games. I wonder if this is a timing thing. If they're just like, hey, we don't want to have to put together builds of games for for late August if they wanted to have something that's a little bit more, out there, a little bit more public facing, all that sort of stuff. We'll have to see what they end up bringing. And if they end up having another, presumably they will have another Nintendo Direct here sometime later this summer. It seems like that would make sense to talk about some of that stuff that they have in the works, but we will see. Final story. This is nice. They're adding voice acting to Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. This is a Smash Brothers-esque platform fighter that came out last year. God, was it last year? Was it even the year? Oh man, that game feels like ancient history, and I can't figure that out. Anyway, one of the main criticisms of that game was that it just felt a little bit lifeless, and part of that was a lack of voice acting. The official account, it sounds like that may be available now, that they had that free update hitting this week, perhaps yesterday, according to Polygon. And so Tom Kenny is going to voice SpongeBob, as well as Dog from Cat Dog. Cam Clark's doing Leonardo, and they've got a lot of other voice actors in there. That's pretty cool. It's on PlayStation Plus now? Subs over dubs out there saying it's on PlayStation Plus. That seems like there's never been a better time to at least look at Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. Probably makes sense for them to be doing this, considering if they do want this to be a viable game for years to come, which I don't know if it really achieved that. Maybe it's already kind of too late. But with Multiversus coming around and kind of stirring up the pot again for this style of game from non-Nintendo companies, it probably makes sense for them to fix what it kind of, I think, become kind of the main presentational criticisms of the game. We'll have to see if it kind of moves the needle for them at all. I don't know, but still found that interesting because, again, one of the big things that I think people said about that game early on was just like, yeah, it's super flat because you have all these vibrant characters that just aren't talking and all that other stuff, and they just need that. So they have gone ahead and done it. That's cool. That's going to do it for the news. We're going to take one more break, and I am going to look over some of your emails here, and we'll come back and read some of those. Cool? Cool. I don't have a good... Oh, yeah, I guess we'll go... Let's listen to some music. And we're back. Hi. I need to turn off this music so that I can turn these system sounds back up. We're going to take some emails here. You've been sending a big chunk of them in, and I want to thank everyone for that. I've set up an email address last night. Well, I guess technically this morning. I guess technically it was sometime in the midnight hour. podcast@guard.bike. You can send your messages over there. I also, it's the Discord server is still coming together. Everyone's super excited. The people are going wild. If you want to get on there, you can head over to patreon.com/Jeff Gerstmann and read that over. See what you think. Let's see. I have starred a handful of emails here. And, this is a mess. This email box has all my other starred emails in it as well. Sean writes in, asking about video plans. Hi, Jeff. Excited for the first episodes of the podcast based on what you outlined on Twitch. Do you feel comfortable sharing any plans for regular video shows right now? So, yeah, sure. The Patreon kind of has the basics of it. I want to do a monthly show about the Jeff Gerstmann Hall of Fame, and people have an opportunity to get access to that early via Patreon. But the goal is for that to to live on YouTube after the fact, and we'll induct games to that, and I'll talk about why they matter to me, and all that sort of stuff. But additionally, I want to cover a split of new releases and older, weirder stuff. And that's kind of the initial blast, if you will, is, I want to put together a show devoted to taking a look at new releases, and kind of seeing what those are all about. I think that's something that hopefully people will find useful, in order to just like, hey, we're going to go through some of these games a little bit and see if they're any good. And that's kind of where some of the voting stuff on Patreon comes in, because, a zillion games come out every week. So part of what I want to be able to do is like, hey, like if I'm going to be here by myself, not that, we will have guests, of course, and they will come and they will talk about games and do their thing. But I want to know about what you are playing. I want to know what I'm missing. And I think that's the opportunity for the Gerstmann advisory panel. Among others, but I want to know more about what is going on out there, because there's just going to be a bunch of stuff that I might not check out at first. And so I want to hear more about what people are getting into. It's Golf Gang. You say it's Golf Gang. Citizen Sleeper. Yeah, I do want to check out Citizen Sleeper. Zelrez is saying to check out Final Fantasy 14. What is that all about? What is that? It would be very funny if I were to just suddenly fall down a Final Fantasy hole, and that's just all we ever talked about ever again. I do really want to play Final Fantasy 14. I feel like there's just been this constant, just like, I just don't have the time to really put into it right now, and I'm not gonna start it because I just don't have time for that right now in my life, because I know to truly get into it, it would take time. And so I don't know. It seems like a very cool MMO, and I would love to get into it at some point, honestly. But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, people saying Golf Gang, like, yeah, that's a hell of a game. I'd definitely be down to play some more of that. But also, the stuff beyond games as well, like what like I want to be able to, whether that's probably not on this show. That's probably when we're chilling and kicking it on a laid back show some other day of the week, to just, hey, what's going on in music? What are people into? what are people checking out, and I want to be able to check out some of that stuff and see what's up with it. I mean, I'm kind of keeping tabs on the music I keep tabs on and the stuff that I like, and I'd love to be able to, just kind of talk about that from time to time. And how long before I sell this yeah, right. There's always there's always a lighthouse, a town, and a website, right? Like that's how this goes. Am I going to fix wolves? I was talking to one David Lang last night via text, and we talked about Post Malone briefly, but I don't know that we'll start a regular hip hop podcast. That seems foolish. But yeah, I'm kind of finalizing a weekly schedule, but the basic idea is I want to be able to devote some time to new releases, and then have a show that is a little bit more rotating on a variety of ways. Sometimes we'll check out some old games. Sometimes I need to clean my garage. You say I don't know if I think the Nightbot got it, but someone was talking about Skylanders. I just found a big box full of all my Disney Infinity figures, and another big box full of all my Skylanders and all that sort of stuff. And so there's just a lot of cleanup work to be done in there. And I have plans for what I want to do with that. It'll be expensive. So I don't know. I really don't know. I want to build a separate office, kind of an add-on to the house, and have a bigger than this, darker than this room to do shows in, and also room to put my arcade machines in, because right now they're in the garage and they have a bunch of stuff in front of them, so I can't really play them, and I want to play some Smash TV. But yeah, that's kind of that's separate from this. Kind of one of my larger goals is to kind of get out of this room and have a separate space to kind of do stuff in. Or maybe I'll decorate this. I mean, I don't know. Do I need to decorate it really? I mean, the bassinet, I think, really sets the stage for a lot of things. My boy sleeps in that at night, and he is on the verge of his schedule changing. I think we can both feel it. It's like his sleep schedule, all this other stuff. Like he's growing up so fast that there's just the times when he's asleep and all this other stuff is probably about to change. About to change right now. So we'll that's going to be some chaos. But anyway, to answer the question, yes, a couple of regular live streams this week, and probably the next couple of weeks will probably be different, right? Because we're in the middle of this kind of Summer Game Fest E3-ish sort of thing. So there's going to be, the Microsoft stream. We'll talk over that. We'll probably talk over the Capcom stream that got announced. And the Royal We. We'll have some stuff around that. So that's going to kind of prevent that'll delay the launch of kind of like the regular schedule a little bit. But yes, the plan is to get on a pretty well announced regular schedule of when I'm live and what we're doing. So yeah, we'll nail that down. I'm going to say tentatively that I'll probably be live here on Tuesdays doing a podcast for you. And then probably live Wednesdays talking new releases. And then Friday we'll kind of have a variety of programming. Whether that's hey, maybe we'll do a show about wrestling. I've had some light discussion about that concept. I don't know. So yes, that's kind of the rough plan. But again, because this is all happening before all of the Summer Game Fest stream stuff has occurred, and all that. So we'll kind of get on the other side of that. It'll be a little catch as catch can here for a while, and then we'll kind of get back to it. Mode 7 asking about guests in the chat. Yes, definitely. I I scribbled down a long list of people that I would love to have on a podcast. People that I know and people that I've done some podcasts with in the past. All of that sort of stuff. Would love to get some of them folks on, but obviously, like I said at the top, different guests are going to be good for different types of segments, right? I mean, you have people that can definitely be on a full show. And you'll have people that are a little more focused on like, hey, I'm really good at talking about a topic or a specific topic, but I can't really stay through the whole news because I'm a busy executive or because I don't want to talk trash about the Epic Game Store client, or, whatever it ends up being. Yes, Naroon asking, will I still do the occasional chill stream where it's just me playing random games? Yes, that's probably what what we'll end up doing on Fridays is we'll just kick it and play some stuff, or maybe I'll be in the garage, or maybe I'll be doing, there's a kind of like a handful of different things that I envision for that Friday slot. And like I said, with my son kind of on the verge of his schedule changing, I'd like to have kind of different time of day of a lot of this stuff. In terms of like, hey, can we do some stuff in the evenings? Can we do some stuff at night? Can we do some stuff earlier in the morning? Does this 8:30-ish time slot on Tuesdays make a lot of sense? And we'll see. Remember, I also kind of have to figure out the back end production of all this, because as soon as this is over, I will probably go change some diapers and all that other stuff. But I will have to then take this podcast, chop it up into an audio version, desperately attempt to level it, and maybe throw some music. Well, I guess the music might already be on it because I have to use, the music will be on it. Cut the breaks out, all that sort of stuff. So there'll be some production work that'll have to happen that I will be doing to turn that stuff around. And so the ad-free audio will go up on Patreon as soon as I possibly can get it. It'll be the first thing that I'll do when we're done here. When I kind of get back to desk. And yeah, so that's I don't want to. I just kind of want to be like, hey, let's start with that. There's more I want to do, but let's start with that because that makes sense for right now. And we'll see where we get to in terms of just like, where we get to, maybe we'll throw some bonus stream. Anyway, I don't, I can only speculate, but this is, but that is the kind of middle term planning, that I have been doing while laying in bed last night. Jordan Middler from Video Games Chronicle writes in, hello, hi. Your site is doing good work on the news front, and it also, I value that it is very easy to get a list of news stories about video games, which is nice. It's focused. I appreciate that. Anyway, his question is, would you go back to E3? What a crazy day. So easy question. What would it take you to go back to an E3 type show? Is it more hands-on? Is it every company coming back? Is it the worst energy drinks? Congrats on the launch, and thanks for the VGC shout out. Thanks, Jordan. It would take, it is purely COVID related for me. It's purely like, is it safe to do that? And you can find there at videogameschronicle.com, or I believe vgc.news will also get you there. All that sort of stuff. And okay, you're asking, okay, you want a link to the Patreon. It is patreon.com/Jeff Gerstmann. People in chat asking. I should put some graphics on this page, on this stream, I guess, that say stuff like that. That would be the smart thing. That'd be the sensible thing to do. But here we are. Maybe next week. Yeah, I think it's, at the end of the day, I want to cover those shows. I want to to attend those things and be able to talk about them and be able to share with you what it's like to go to stuff like that. And I would love to go to shows like that and conduct, you know, a million interviews and all that sort of stuff. In addition, you know, just if all of those people kind of come together in one location, like that's the thing I want to do is to, you know, is to interview people, talk about the games they're working on, talk about the industry at large, where they think it's heading, all of that sort of stuff. And I think that's valuable. So that's the thing that kind of, that's probably like the main lever for me past the safety aspect. And again, that's still, we talked about it earlier. The COVID stuff is still a thing. You know, my kids are very young. They can't get vaccinated at this time. And so that's really impacting a lot of my decision making. And all of that sort of stuff. So there's that. But if they can get a chunk of the industry to come together and show games, and if there's like meaningful, cool stuff there, I want to be there. And that's, I feel like that's what I love to do. And that's why I'm here at the end of the day, is to go places and do things and report back to you about what it's like. And there's a lot of that. Increasingly, honestly, like the last couple of years have been really fascinating in just how much of that stuff you can do remotely. And all of that sort of stuff. So, you know, obviously there is that aspect of this, but, I think it'd be very fun to get a bunch of people together in person and do some stuff. I think that would be cool to do personally. So yeah, that's kind of it's really like a lot of, I think these, and this is something that is again going to probably be a harder decision to make, working alone, right? Because then there's like, okay, I've signed up for this schedule and now I've got a travel day, and okay, I have to pre-record a podcast. So there may be weeks where the podcast gets pre-recorded because I'm going somewhere to see a video game or something like that. I don't really, that's the sort of stuff I can only really guess at. Like those are things I look at and go like, these are situations that will arise, and I'm just going to have to try to make whatever the right call is when those times come. And I can work through it in my head and go like, okay, well, hey, I'm going to want to go to that stuff. So there will probably be times where I'll have to pre-record a podcast and not do it live to facilitate that, or bring in a guest, you know, bring in someone who can host the show for me. I think that'd be super fun. Worked out for Jay Leno. I don't know. It's a weird sentence. Well, it worked out for Jay Leno. Yes, finally. Big inspiration, Jay Leno. Anyway, let's talk about my cars. Ben in Boston writes in and says, we've seen so many acquisitions in the games space lately, but it seems like mergers are less common here than in other industries. Why don't we see more mergers? So I'm not I'm going to guess at this one and say that it's because we have a lot of companies that have a lot of money, and they are able to do those sorts of acquisitions. And, you know, mergers are usually when you've got like two kind of companies of similar size and all that other stuff. And I just don't like the synergizing you might get out of that type of situation might not work out as well. And in these situations where you've got a situation where a company can come in and absolutely, just, you know, purchase the other company and say like, you know, we're acquiring this. It just seems like that makes a lot more sense in a lot of these cases. So I have a feeling it probably has a lot to do with just the amount of cash on hand that a lot of these companies have right now, and how cheap that cash has been for a good long time, and how they are looking to spend it while they can and get the most out of it. So a lot of companies, my understanding is that a lot of publishers, a lot of developers have really grown a lot over the past couple of years because the pandemic years have been quite good to them, which is weird because when you think about it, you think about, oh, it's impossible to get a PlayStation 5 and there are no, games keep getting delayed and all this other stuff. But like, it sounds like on the money end, things really worked out for a lot of people, a lot of companies. Companies are not people. Fuck what you heard. But you know what I mean? Let's see. Gene Paul writes in and says, glad to not need to worry about your content going away. Yeah, this is what I love to do. This, at the end of the day, this is what I love doing. That's why, I mean, any sane person would have left this business a decade or more ago to become some kind of consultant, because I'm told that's where the money is. But here I am. I fucking love this shit. I can't fucking stop. I love like covering video games. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me. Every sane adult was like, writing about video games is a fool's errand. We've got to get out now. I'm here to ride it into the fucking ground, people. That's my fucking promise to you. I just, this is just what I love doing. I don't know what to tell you. Are you going to have the streams uploaded directly to YouTube as an archive, or will it be another YouTube channel for the stream VODs? These are great logistical questions. I want everything to be archived on YouTube. And that's the goal. This stream today, where we kind of had our intro preamble, and now we're doing this podcast, and we'll do something else after that. I will probably chop that up into 3 videos and upload them to YouTube eventually. And please bear with me. I wish that those could all be super instant turnaround and all that sort of stuff, but I am going to have to, on the podcast especially, I'm going to have to chop those breaks. That's me. I'm always chopping the breaks. You know me. And all that sort of stuff. And since I am doing it alone and figuring a lot of stuff out, that'll take some time. That's going to be me opening like MKV tools and trimming this file and going like, okay, we need to trim out the middle here. We don't want to re-encode it because we don't lose a generation. We don't do this. And hopefully I figure that out. I know how to do that. It's just been a while. So yeah. But yes, there is a YouTube channel that I registered while we were streaming earlier. I'll link it again here. There's no videos on it. Plans for Twitch emotes. I'm just going to say yes. But I just have the one right now. Honestly, all you really need is the Mr. Do emote. You know what I mean? Like, what else are you gonna, what other emote would you ever use on twitch.tv? You know what I mean? It's Mr. Frickin' Do. The Kingpin. So yes, there's a YouTube channel that stuff will live on. It's brand new. And we'll get all that stuff together. Like I said, somewhat ramshackle. Oh man, sorry. I'm gonna use the cough button here because I've got one. Hell yeah. Technology. Christopher writes in, important question about gum. What's your go-to brand of gum? I like Wrigley's Orbit. I am trying to think about the last time I chewed a bunch of... I'm a juicy fruit guy from way back. That's me. But I have not... I'm trying to think, when's the last time I chewed gum? Gum's weird. Now it comes in the big cylinders of gum. Not these sticks of gum, but... I don't know. I was always a juicy fruit gum sort of person as a child. Fruit stripe gum always seemed like a scam because it seemed like the flavor was gone in like 15 seconds. And that's no good. Rec Roulette saying the last gum that mattered was Freshen Up. What about Chewels? Remember Chewels? No, you don't, because you're not a fucking million years old. It was, okay, Thrastronaut, the A&W gun that had the root beer in it. So it's the same, Chewels is basically the same idea where you bite into it and there's just goo in there. And with the A&W stuff, it was like root beer flavored goo. And you would bite into this and go like, blah, blah. It was like a fluoride treatment. It was like the thickness of the goo. The goo. No one wants the goo. Trust me. Chris from KC writes in and says, I feel like my take on this is pretty well established, but, for the record, there's been an increase in NFT-centric play-to-earn games. Do you see this trend extending into mainstream gaming, staying on the fringe, or becoming prevalent like freemium games? Good luck on your future endeavors. Indeed. I think that stuff is a ridiculous scam. I think it's been interesting to watch the bottom drop out of a lot of it. And you've seen a lot of that talk dry up, but that doesn't mean that there are, that stuff's gone away. You've still got people out there banging their heads against that and trying to figure out what the best approach is to incorporate this blockchain stuff. But it seems like the pressure to have something in that realm is waning. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't, like there was a while there, and granted, maybe it was like a 6-week period or something, but like it just, the blockchain stuff, the Web3 stuff, it felt like that was about to become something similar to esports, which maybe doesn't speak well of esports, and mobile games, where like some guy in a suit was going to come to you and say, what's your plan for covering the NFT? What's your plan for the NFT market? Well, how are you, a lot of investors in a lot of earnings calls saying like, well, how do you plan to incorporate this thing I've heard is all the rage into your product? You should really do that because it's all the rage. And that means it's gotta be, it's gotta be good. It's gotta be legit. And so that probably knee jerk led to a lot of people saying like, oh yeah, we're on top of that, Don. Oh, we're on top of that. And then getting out there and investing some money to figure out what that means for them. And I feel like that pressure is off. Largely. You'll probably still have some yahoos out there that'll be like, why aren't you getting into these damn NFTs? But again, it's people that don't understand games and don't really understand what the blockchain is and what it does and all that sort of stuff. So it just doesn't need to exist. Or I guess I should say, I have yet to see any form of a pitch where being on the blockchain made it good or better, or a better video game, or a better opportunity for the people who play it. This whole play to earn thing seems like it's purely built for people that don't play video games and don't understand why, and really don't understand why people play video games. Because on the surface you go like, well, wouldn't it be great if people could make money while playing the video games? And you're like, yeah, that'd be cool. Sure. Yeah. But then you dig into it and you're like, but not like this. Like, what is, I gotta, like, what, I'm doing the weird labor so that like you're building some kind of pyramid scheme inside of a video game. Like what, hang on, what? Or the whole nature of like, you can buy this gun as an NFT and then you can bring it into every video game. Without anyone just going like, yeah, that's, and a lot of people have said this, but there's just a lot of like, that's not how video games work. And we talked earlier about just how hard it is to make video games. Imagine if you then had to support every single NFT that was made in some specific blockchain that was like the gaming block. Like, well, we got to find a way to put these cosmetics in here. We've got to have artists make art for this thing that we don't actually care about, because we have to make sure that the players can wear the hat that they own or use the gun skin that they bought, or there's just a lot of like, that's a lot of labor. It's not like you can just like dump it in the game and go, now you got a hat. Not all hats are created equal. And the people involved in promoting that never really seemed to care about that concept. They were just like, we've got to push this as hard as possible in as many different ways as possible because that's the scam. And the minute we let up, the minute we blink and let people know that we know, the whole thing collapses. And then the whole thing kind of collapsed. So, but I don't think we've heard the last of that shit. It's going to be like a cockroach sort of situation for a while. But I think it did take a lot of the heat off of publishers to feel like they have to have an answer for it. You know, I think it's an okay answer to go like, we've looked at that and we are aware of it. And if we think of a way to integrate it, we are certainly, you know, the kind of safe answer of, hey, if someone finds a good way to use this that doesn't, you know, kill the world or I was reading something. What was it? Was it the WWE NFTs? I forget what it was, but it was something that was just like, our NFTs don't cause pollution. We're recycling mining energy. It was just this like, okay, dude. Sure. All right. Pat Bear writes in and says, Cody Rhodes, hey man, I didn't want to see that bruise. What the fuck? Even if you can't make that injury worse once it happens, why did it even happen? Yeah. Yes. So Hell in a Cell happened. Happened over the weekend. Scotty says, is the plan for a weekly live stream that then gets wrapped into a podcast the next day, multiple shows throughout the week? Is Patreon the go-to for supporting you other than through Twitch? Yes. Patreon's the go-to if you want to support the program and get access to the Discord and some early access to some other stuff and all that. You can go to patreon.com/Jeff Gerstmann to learn more about that. And then, yes, we'll be streaming here on Twitch, doing some stuff. And again, that schedule will be locked down a little bit better once we're past all the E3 stuff. Hell in a Cell happened. I barely remember. So I feel like I've been watching, not every single minute, but I have been catching quite a bit of both Raw and SmackDown for at least the last month, if not longer. And Hell in a Cell came on, and I couldn't remember what any of the storylines were. It was just like all a blank. And granted, I have been a little preoccupied lately, but it was just a certain amount of just like, I think Cody's wrestling Seth Rollins again. Okay. And then, yes, if you did not see the show, he came out with a gigantic, I guess he has a torn pectoral muscle, which sounds very painful. And had a nasty bruise that it was apparently a shoot bruise. And not makeup, but who knows? Who knows, right? It's television. We'll never really know. And wrestled a match, and it was fine, and all of that other stuff. And now he'll be out for a bit because he tore his pec muscle off the bone. No pec dance party for Cody Rhodes anytime soon. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of that old. I mean, you know, if anyone's going to do that, it's going to be Cody Rhodes, who has that very old school, like, we've got to get the match in the ring, like, sort of thing. I just spilled my drink. It's fine. I spilled it on my Go XLR, so if the sound gets crazy, well, you know, what am I going to soak this up with? Here, let's soak this up with this, and what I think of Seth's polka dots. That's funny. I don't know, doing the Dusty Rhodes thing. I don't know. Trying to use that as a burn always felt weird to me because as a child that never seemed like a burn. It just seemed like, man, Dusty Rhodes is fun. He's got all these cool polka dots. Like that totally worked for me. I don't know. Whatever. Let's see here. Steve writes in and says, the ESA says E3 is back. With the ESA announcing that E3 will return for 2023, do you think anyone would stop me from sneaking in my own booth setup into Kensha Hall? It would be the perfect opportunity to launch my new gamer food brand, Gamer Grub 2. I don't foresee any legal issues. Yeah, what does E3 look like on the other side of this? After skipping a year, do you think that they come back like bigger and better than ever? Does the industry believe in them to put on a great show? You know, because if you think about it, E3, the last couple of E3s, even the in-person ones, were not amazing shows. They were trying to find a way to make the show more relevant, and so that's when they opened it to the public. I'm sorry if I'm looking down. I'm literally using an old mask to wipe up a bunch of Rockstar off of my Go XLR. And that's a thing. Okay, do I have anything else to wipe things up with within my immediate vicinity? I'm going to stand up real quick and go grab something. You fucking wait here. God damn it. Okay. I have paper towels. Some of them have my blood on them. That's fun. That's fun, right? We're having a great time here. Oh man. All right. So when you move to a place where it is very dry, I feel like I've told this story, but I was very prone to getting bloody noses growing up. I would get almost one a day. When I was in high school, like every morning, it seemed like I was getting a bloody nose, and it sucked. It fucking sucked. And I hadn't had any for forever. You know, just like maybe you bump your nose and you get one once a decade or something like that, which seems like a normal rate to get a bloody nose. And then we moved, and it's very dry here, and I have started getting maybe like one a month again, and it's very it's real old school shit, you know. It's real throwback kind of stuff. It's kind of nice. No, it sucks because I got one at like 4 a.m. and it fucking sucked. All right, I think I have wiped most of the Rockstar off of my equipment. So yes, when you think about it, E3 was already in such a weird lane prior to the pandemic. Like, what do they bring it back as? Do they try and bring it back? Because, you know, when you think about it, remember when E3 went to the airplane hangar and they went to the Santa Monica Pier? That was 2007. And well, we went to the Santa Monica Pier, and I guess we brought the show to us in some ways, which was a lot of fun. And then there were a lot of hotels in the area where companies were showing off games. And then there was an airplane hangar where there was some booth space type stuff set up, but it was very thrown together. And generally all the action was in the hotel rooms. And so it was a weird hassle covering that show. But like, it was a time when they were like, we're not sure if E3 matters anymore, so this is what we're doing. And they went through that same crisis a few years ago here, where they were like, hey, we got to do something about this show. But this time, instead of like moving it to a smaller venue or something like that, they try to open it up to the public, try to pivot it into something else. And so if you remember, they did the Santa Monica show and like the business summit or whatever they ended up calling it there for a while. And then they brought it back in grand, or they tried to bring it back in grand fashion. They one year they went back to the LA Convention Center, but they were only in, I think that was 2008, if I remember right, maybe 2009. Anyway, it all kind of runs together. Where they were only in one of the halls. They weren't taking up the whole convention center the way they used to. It was a much smaller show, and that was weird. And then at some point they were like, fuck it, we're bringing it back. It's the same E3 it always has been. sorry. And so in some ways that might be the opportunity here, right? Is they try to just sweep the last handful of years under the rug. They skip a year. They have their kind of remote shows because of the pandemic, and that kind of gives them a weird free pass. And then if they are able to get companies to sign on and make it matter, and things are safe enough, again, that's probably still a thing that matters, then maybe they try to come back in grand fashion. And they try to just say, E3's back, baby, get on board. And, you know, will publishers want that? I don't really know. It depends on how expensive the booth space gets, probably. At the end of the day, like, how expensive is it for a company to go and do that show? because there are going to be smaller publishers that are going to go like, that booth space, super expensive, and got more expensive, I feel like, as time went on, from what I heard. And so at some point, the whole, you are going to count your beans. You are going to look at it and go like, what are we actually getting out of attending this show? And that's why they started letting the public in, because more and more companies were like, like EA took off, and you remember Activision took off a while back and eventually came back. But, a lot of the publishers were starting to wonder why they were participating in E3 at all, especially at a time when the relevance of the general press was changing a lot, right? I mean, if you think about it, E3 and retail, E3 was a show that really kind of satisfied a couple of things in terms of like, publishers got to get in front of retailers and say, hey, here's our game, have a bunch of drinks, and you should buy a lot of copies of our game. And they got in front of the press and said like, here's our game. Would you like a sandwich? Play it and hopefully you write nice things about it. The rise of influencer culture really changed the dynamic. It really changed the landscape in terms of the relevance of like the concept of like mainstream gaming media, right? And the numbers that they would pull in. You used to be able to look at that and go like, well, IGN's pulling in a million page views a day just on its homepage alone, or whatever it is. And I don't know where their traffic is now. It seems like they're doing quite well. But that all changed, and it got to a point where it's just like some dude in a room is pulling in all of the traffic, and on you and putting it on YouTube and all that other stuff. And a lot of that stuff changed. And so for publishers, it becomes like, well, we could put on this show and keep talking to these publications that maybe are not as relevant as they once were. Or we can kind of make that pivot and we're talking to these influencer type people and we're doing marketing deals with them and they're promoting our games, and where they built a whole new machine. And at a lot of publishers that manifested as a fight between the PR department and the marketing department. And that went different ways all over the place, I guess. But in a lot of cases, the marketing budgets for like, okay, here's our marketing strategy. We are going to try to pay these 10 people with big followings to play this game for the week of release, or whatever. Those campaigns are much more developed than that. I am simplifying things quite a bit, and we're going to go from there. And I think some publishers found that actually didn't work out for them in terms of like translating into sales. Some certainly did. Kind of depends on how you do it, like anything. But the point is that just like, with the relevance of the mainstream press changing, I think that also changes the value proposition for E3, because if you're not reaching a critical mass of people with your booth and all this other stuff, then why are you going? If retail is not going away, but the relevance of retail changed because digital sales rose up, and because a lot of retailers went on to have their own shows. You've got the GameStop Managers Conference. There's a lot of cases where, publishers are also we're going out directly to Walmart HQ and taking meetings there and promoting the game directly instead of saying come out to E3 and see it. And so, it's different. It's not a one size fits all thing. Every publisher did things a little bit differently depending on what their budgets were and what they could afford and all of that other stuff. So all of those things are knocks against the relevance of E3 at the end of the day. And so I think that's why you had the public let in, because the ESA had to react to publishers saying, hey, we're just not getting, for the amount of money you're charging us to be here, we're just not seeing the value in that. But enough time has changed, and I think people miss it. I think the industry misses it. But I don't know. I can't quite predict how that will go. I think there is definitely a future where the ESA says, screw it, we are bringing back E3, and it is as big as ever, and it is as big as it ever was, and it is exactly what you thought it was. And they don't necessarily try to do a public show, and they don't necessarily try to change things up. They just go back to what worked for them for a lot of years and hope everyone forgets. about why they made those changes in the first place, and maybe they get another 5 years out of it, or whatever, right? So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what E3 becomes. I think there's definitely an opportunity for them to try to do that, but they would have to get a lot of publishers on board, and I assume charge a lot less for booth space and all that sort of stuff. That's my guess, but I don't really know how that aspect of it works. Let's see here. This one, I'm just gonna say this is from T because I don't really have a full name on it. It was sent from an iPhone. We know that much. Was Sega Channel as cool as I remember? It's no. Maybe, I don't know. You know, that was a cartridge that you plugged into your Genesis and it plugged into your cable system, and then over the same cable you got television on, you were able to download a selection of video games, and it's pretty cool, but it came out pretty late in the life cycle of the Genesis, and I think it's more neat as a concept. Yeah, it's really cool as a concept. that wasn't always as cool. My Sega Channel story is when I was between jobs, after I had worked at a magazine, but before I started working full time at a video game website. A friend of mine was doing morning radio, and so he got off work relatively early in the day, and I just would go to his apartment around the time that he would kind of get off work, and we would hang out and sometimes play Sega Channel and do a fair amount of drinking. And so that was fun. It's a neat concept. Captain Joel writes in and says, what would be the best Sony IP to revive with PlayStation VR 2? I feel like Siphon Filter or Mag are the only correct answers, but maybe Starhawk or Twisted Metal would be good too. Keep up the great work. Thanks, Joel. Man, Siphon Filter and Mag, Starhawk and Twisted Metal would work because they are often cockpit games, and I think cockpit games work quite well in VR. I think Jumping Flash might be fun and really weird. Those gigantic high jumps would probably be kind of cool. I think when you go to like a combat game like a Mag, and Siphon Filter's a stealth game, and maybe that would be cool in concept. I don't know, but I think a lot of the kind of first person, kind of the VR shooters are really well done, and it's awesome that they make those, and I think it makes a ton of sense. But how many of those have their own like identity, and how many of them just look like, look down, you're holding a gun, go over there and shoot some folks. I don't want to necessarily do the genre that dirty, because I think that's awesome and can be super fun. But Mag is not one I would probably put on that list. I guess that's my way of saying I don't think Mag is something I would put on that list. I think that Wipeout, well, they've done that. But again, like, I think cockpit games are a really easy answer there. I think Starhawk makes some sense there, because that at least has some, that's some on foot, some cockpit, right? But Starhawk, is anyone gonna bring back Warhawk or Starhawk yet again? I feel like those are just done, right? Like, you probably don't reboot those yet again. Twisted Metal probably makes a lot of sense. My biggest problem with car combat was always you shoot going forward and you're driving a car and you want to be able to strafe, And so the idea of just like you're doing these Austin Powers turns to line up your shot, or if you're doing it right, you are whipping around corners and aiming and all the other stuff. And, they're definitely, Interstate 76. Anarchy is a great example. Hell of a game. Vigilante 8 was cool. Jetmoto. Yeah, Jetmoto being a fixed viewpoint, that would be kind of cool. Or that could be kind of cool. And that, I think that would make a ton of sense. Because again, it's you sitting on a thing, you know, that'd be kind of weird because you're looking down and seeing hand. Well, I guess a lot of cockpit games do that. Cockpit. Yes, definitely. VR games have their own identity for sure. I don't mean to necessarily say that every single shooter is super generic, and they're coming up with their own rule sets, and some of them are doing sci-fi stuff and military stuff and all that sort of stuff. I guess I just mean like, there have been a lot of those, and some of them are pretty bad, and some of them are pretty incredible. But there've been a lot of them, and I just don't know. Like Sony had that PlayStation VR game that was a competitive shooter. The name of that game is just gone. I don't have it. I don't have the name of that VR of that PlayStation VR game. Will someone in chat have something? Will someone fill in this blank for me? Not Riggs. No, not Riggs. Firewall 0 Hour. There you go. Thank you very much. Firewall was cool. It was janky in spots, but I think that about pretty much everything on PlayStation VR. I didn't have a great experience with PlayStation VR. The tracking just always felt very off to me. And so I think that's why I'm really looking forward to PlayStation VR 2, because I think they will have solved that problem. I think if they're going in the inside out tracking and all that other stuff, hopefully these don't seem like they're issues anymore. You know, they went with their camera solution for the first one, and that never worked well for me. But yeah, Twisted Metal. Let me play as Samoa Joe as Sweet Tooth in a Twisted Metal VR game. I think if it seems like they're really gonna do another Twisted Metal. They should definitely do it as a VR thing. I think that would be the only great way to make it stand out and make it different. I think if you're just going to make another Twisted Metal game, I just don't think that that's all that interesting. I think a lot of car combat stuff, and people feel differently. That's fine. Car combat to me just feels like a largely dead genre, because I think people just don't. Again, I think it comes down to the aiming and the part where you're driving a car. It just is not fun compared to like just being able to strafe. Hover cars, more fun than cars for video gaming. You heard it here first. We'll see what they do with PlayStation VR 2. I mean, we're gonna, when this podcast is over, we are going to watch the State of Play if you want to hang around for that. Before we call it a day, for the end of our broadcast day. John writes in and says, I see you're wearing a Rez shirt. That's one of the best games ever made. So true. So absolutely positively true. I know you recognize its value, and I've talked about it at length before, but I feel like it's perhaps a good blessing for episode 1 if you talk about how sick Rez is. Oh my God. So I'm a big Space Harrier guy, and I know we talked about Space Harrier earlier in the program as it relates to Air Twister and all that sort of stuff. Rez did something to me when it came out, or when I was able to play it before release at the Tokyo Game Show. And I wanted to learn everything about it. I am not the most educated man in the arts and all this other stuff. So when there was this idea of just like, hey, we've got Project K, we've got K Project, we've got this Kandinsky guy and Synesthesia, like these are the things we're playing off of, and these are the things that we're looking at. That was part of kind of the initial push that they were talking about with that game, and I really got into that. I really felt that, and I really dug into that and found myself reading up on the concept of synesthesia and all of that sort of stuff. And I wanted to be inside that game, if you know what I mean. We'll roll the ad. Roll the ad again. Rez, much like Tron before it, in a weird way, everyone talks about Tron as a boring movie. I agree with you, but conceptually, as a kid who was just having trouble with the world, and was loving video games, I wanted to live inside the computer as a child. That was like, man, someday we're going to be able to download ourselves into the computer, and I'm not going to have to deal with any of this shit. And, Rez taps into some of that similar stuff, right? I mean, not as directly, I guess, in some ways, but, Rez did to me similar stuff to what Tron did to me when I was 5, or, whenever it was that Tron came out. I saw Tron at a drive-in. I guess drive-ins still exist, but, I have not seen a drive-in in a very long time. And so something about Rez just clicked with me in this very deep way, that I didn't quite understand at the time. Even it was just something that immediately stood out. The way it worked with the music. Obviously, it was a game first, and it felt like it didn't hold you back from playing it as a video game. It was not a rhythm game. But you could play it rhythmically, and that matters. And, they came out with the trance vibrator. I bought the trance vibrator. I have a couple of trance vibrators around here somewhere. It just vibrated. It was not, the trance vibrator is not that interesting. But it was a cool idea. It was a very cool thought. And I appreciate that a lot. And yeah, I don't know. Rez hit me very hard, but then also, I think if you take a step back and say, well, I'm reviewing video games, you look at Rez and you go, this is such a slight, in some ways it is such a slight experience, because it is not especially difficult, and it is something you will more than likely be able to complete the day you finish it, if you so choose. And so it kind of, it came out at a time when that was a much larger consideration, because the pricing of games and all games kind of cost full price, generally speaking. And you had to kind of live with that. And so I think that when Rez first came out, I think that hurt it in a lot of ways, because it made it very easy to compare it to a lot of other games from a value proposition. And remember, in the early 2000s, we spoke about video games a lot differently than we do now. It was a much smaller audience. There was a much different focus in terms of what mattered in video games. And I think that I think we as a people are much more equipped to appreciate video games as art, if you will allow me to fucking utter those cursed words, more so than we were. I think that there is a much more sophisticated audience playing video games these days than there were then. And I think that Rez, as a result, was incredibly ahead of its time. And in a lot of ways, right? I mean, because you look at Rez Infinite and you look at Rez as a VR game, and you say, again, I've already said it'd be great to live inside Rez, and then they got in, and they did it. And Rez is a simple concept. It's a rail shooter with lock-on targeting and smart bombs, and it just so happens that when you shoot things, they go off in a rhythmic way, and that's kind of the difference in a lot of ways when you get beyond the visuals and a lot of that other stuff. But Rez is so much more than that, and I love Rez. If Rez VR was the only VR game, I would still want to own a VR headset. And I hope that whatever Tetsuya Mizuguchi is working on after this is incredible. I hope that I hope that is that going to be a sequel to Rez? Who can say? I don't know. I feel like they've maybe hinted at that at some point, but Area X always felt like it was meant as here's what we think we're going to do from here. And I hope they do a lot from here with that concept. Also, Meteos. Let's do a new Meteos. Come on. What are we doing? Why have we not had a new Meteos? Let's see here. I'm kind of clicking through some of this stuff. George writes in and says, what's the thing you miss most about games media that's now a thing of the past? For me, I think it was the amount of coverage you would get for shitty to mediocre games. I miss them getting the disproportionate attention they used to. All I'm saying is they don't make B games like they used to, man. Yeah, it's, there was... there's so many more video games coming out now, right? I mean, there's no, at the time when you saw that sort of coverage for smaller games, it was because video game publications had enough people to say, we're going to go to this event and we're going to write something up about every single video game that's there because that's what we do. But now, like, we talk about how it's a slow period right now and there aren't a ton of new releases, but like, there's a ton of stuff coming out. It might not be super high profile. It might not be cracking anyone out of whatever their kind of comfort game is at the time or whatever. But there's a lot of stuff coming out and there are a lot of games getting updated all the time too. I mean, like another season of Destiny 2 just launched, last week, the week before. So all these live games are getting updated now too. And, I think running a publication, you have to make those decisions about like, what are you going to cover? What matters to the audience at large and all this sort of stuff. And trying to split the difference between these are the stories we know matter. But they might not be about the games that matter, but we need to write them anyway, because that's what we do. Even if we know they're not going to traffic well at the end of the day, that's a much harder push and pull, I think. That's the impression I get. I mean, honestly, I've been off that firing line for a good long time. Of like, what games do we need to cover and all that sort of stuff. And there's still part of me that's like, well, I want to cover this game because it seems like people would be interested in seeing us do something with it. Seeing it be played. It's a larger release. We should do something with it versus here's a great game that, no one's talking about or is just starting to get some buzz and we should do something with that. Yeah, I think that's a really hard balance to strike, and I don't envy anyone who is trying to run that sort of larger publication and the push and pull of doing that sort of stuff. So yeah, it was fun though, in a way, to like, we've got to write a hands-on preview of like these 9 shitty licensed games that THQ is putting out. It's like, this one is a third-person platformer. You play as the fucking Rugrats guys, like all that sort of stuff. It was ridiculous, but it was like, I don't know, in some ways it was fun. And also it led to a feeling of, okay, we did it. We accomplished that. We're done. And now I don't think you ever truly feel that way, because games are never done, because there's always a patch around the corner. There's always, here's season 3, here's this, here's that. There's always more small indie games coming out. Some of them are in early access, so they're getting updates too. And I think that is maybe the thing I miss the most, is occasionally feeling like, okay, all right, we're on top of it. I don't think it's possible to be on top of it anymore. I don't think that the financials work out in such a way that you can have enough people devoted to covering video games to ever truly feel like you're done. And I think that is, I think that's something that is probably unhealthy for a lot of people that are maybe trying to do that sort of stuff, and trying to work that kind of reviews and previews beat. It's tough, and I think it's only gotten tougher since I kind of stopped really living that life, which at this point, that was, 2007, basically. And yeah, it's hard. it's hard to, and the desire is certainly there, because you're like, I want to provide for an audience. I want to give them everything they need. I want to be the one-stop shop for them on all of these topics. And I just don't think that's possible anymore. It's part of, it's part of why I feel very comfortable about doing what we're doing here today. Because I think that like the way you cover games and the way you have fun with games in a coverage capacity, right? Because it's not just game coverage. Like, at the end of the day, I'm going to fucking do some laid back, fun, cool shit. And you're not going to always identify it as like, that's coverage of video games. I want to have fun around here. I think we all do. So it's not always just a series of like, we got to knock these videos out because there's 3 more games showing up tomorrow and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, so I think there is something to striking that balance and kind of there's something nice about the breaking away from that mentality. I've slept a lot better this last, let's say, week and a half. I started remembering dreams again, which for me only happens when I am not stressed. And it used to be I would take a vacation, and by the last couple of days of the vacation, I would start to remember dreams again. And then I would go back to work, and they would all go away. And yeah. It's hard, you think about the shit you're bringing home, and bringing home is a weird concept because home is outside this door now. What you might be bringing home to your family. And just how fucking pissed you can be. It's poison, and you have to get away from it. And it felt good to feel like, oh wow, I'm dreaming again. And yeah, it's pretty fucking crazy. So I'm excited to be out here. I genuinely am. I know I keep saying it, and I think it's very easy to be cynical about stuff and be like, yeah, well, of course you would say that, but what I want to do is this direct relationship that we can have, and try to build a community and try to fucking build cool shit about video games. I have a lot of ridiculous ideas. It just so happens they're all insanely expensive, and sometimes require a massive team to execute on. And will I ever do that again? I don't fucking know. Not if it comes with, that baggage, if I have to take that back on again, then you have to question, is it really worth it? And yeah, so it's been nice, as weird as it is to say that. And so, yeah, I want to be able to kind of keep that, because I think that allows me to be a little more loose with you and a little more creative. And I think that's what I want to bring to things. You know, when we started Giant Bomb, there was definitely an aspect of like, we've done this the right way for a very long time. And now we've learned why that right way doesn't make sense anymore. And now we can do it the wrong way because we know how to do it the right way. And now we know, here are the corners we can cut. Here are the, you know, hey, we're a smaller team. We can cut this, we can cut that. This time it's a little, it's a little more up in the air, you know? I feel like it was very cut and dry then to like, oh, okay, we'll do this. This time I know what I want to do, and I think I definitely know what an audience will want to watch. But yes, Dark Alaron, yes, the landscape is so different now. And it's time to kind of get back out there in that landscape again, and fuck shit up. And ultimately that's what I want to do. I want to fuck shit up. Let's see. I've started a bunch more emails here, but let's, Christopher writes in and says, bring back Brink reviews. The people demand it. I'm going to say you probably mean drink reviews. But here's a Brink review. I have not played Brink in a very long time. I don't think Brink was ever very good. I think that when they pitched Brink, it sounded like a cool idea. Obviously, Splash Damage had some history making, you know, some well-liked competitive shooters. And they had this whole story concept that they were trying to tie to their competitive game about like whatever, it was like a floating city or whatever it was. And the you know, what was it, like cops versus rebels or whatever. And they try to do the kind of parkour-y kind of stuff. And it didn't work out very well for them. I remember that, you know, they were very much behind Brink until they weren't, right? It was like, oh, this doesn't seem like it worked out very well. And yes, this is scrolling away. Soup in on the Discord says, I played Brink a year ago and it still sucks shit. Okay. Yeah. I wouldn't. Brink cannot have aged well. A1 Steaks says Dirty Bomb is what Brink should have been. Dirty Bomb was and is good, and it's still up. Cool. I thought that Dirty Bomb. For some reason I thought Dirty Bomb went down, but maybe they brought it down and brought it back up. Maybe I'm misremembering. So there's your Brink review. I hope you like it. It's like a thumbs in the middle. It's like a thumbs in the middle. Bryn from the UK writes in. Hello, Bryn. Says, a bit of a weird question, but I've had controllers on the brain lately. I know you got a spinner for your Mister a while back. Have you been tempted to get any other weird or specific controllers? Stuff like a trackball or a Mahjong controller can be so tempting, not because they're useful, just because they're cool and weird. Do you ever get tempted to get stuff like that, like a Densha To Go controller, one of the crazy rhythm game controllers, a one-handed PlayStation controller, that sort of thing? Thanks for writing in, Bryn. Hi. So I bought a Sinden light gun recently. I haven't gotten it yet, but I just on a whim a couple of weeks ago was like, well, they'll probably add support for the Sinden to the Mister at some point, and then I'll be able to play light gun games on it, and that might be fun. It does not directly support the Sinden, the Mister, an open source FPGA based project that plays a lot of old games. I don't believe it currently supports the Sinden, but I would hope that it would at some point. But yes, the Sinden, what it does, so it's a light gun, and the whole thing of like light guns only work on old TVs, and so it's hard to use on an LCD, all this other stuff. So what the Sinden does is it draws a thin white border around your screen, and then the camera on the gun will use that to aim and figure things out. I will be honest with you, I do not love the concept of drawing a border on the screen, but when you're using integer scaling on the Mister anyway, it isn't always filling up your entire screen anyway. So hopefully, we can kind of do that and it'll work out okay. Do I think that would work? Andy wanted to know, do I think that will work for Time Crisis on the Mr. PlayStation Core? I suspect it could. I am no developer. But seems like something that should work. Mahjong controllers are super crazy. There's a Neo Geo Mahjong controller for like the very few Mahjong games that exist on the Neo Geo, and it's such a crazy big weird box with all those buttons on it. It's pretty neat, but people should play fighting games. Someone should use one of those as like a hitbox kind of thing, I think. Let's see here. Let's maybe take like a couple more emails. And then we'll wrap up the podcast. Brian from New Jersey writes in and says, congrats on the new show. When you go to a restaurant or any kind of sit-down eating establishment, do you prefer a table or booth, or do you not have a preference? I like a booth. I could go either way. I don't know. I guess I don't really care, but I guess I'm knee jerk. I'm going to say booth. And there was a while there that I had that weird, like, I want my back to the wall. I don't want anyone being able to sneak up in here and get me. I don't know. It's ridiculous suburban bullshit. Gary from PA writes in and says, as someone who has a large and ever-growing digital library across multiple storefronts, should I be concerned that one day one of these libraries will cease to exist? For example, Bethesda's launcher recently closed its doors with an option to export all games to Steam. If someone isn't totally aware of the state of every launcher, they could very well think that their library is gone. Will we one day see a more centralized and hopefully secure way to store their digital library? Well, Gary, let me tell you about the blockchain. No. Steam has kind of become the de facto standard for that on PC, right? When the Bethesda launcher shut down, they migrated everybody over to Steam and all of that sort of stuff. And I think that there will always be competitors out there that will be willing to kind of take on that load of just like, oh yeah, transfer your games over here. And we will do our thing. But yeah, I think the companies that are really involved in that space now are large enough that I don't, and this, I'm going to say this, but it's going to fuck me over in like 5 years. Just you watch. I think a lot of the current stores up and running, I think the expectations have changed that those storefronts need to stay active, and that those storefronts need to be there for people no matter what. And they can't go away. I say this as Sony has made it harder to acquire games on like the what is it, like the PS3, the PSV, the PSP, and the Vita, Sony's next generation portable. And those storefronts probably won't last forever, right? The eShop, long may it rain, except for the part where they're shutting it down. To me, the eShop died when Nintendo stopped sending out weekly descriptions of every game that was launching on the eShop. And truly, people talk a lot about the end of an era lately, but truly, the end of the era was when Nintendo stopped sending out those descriptions of all the eShop games, of all the massage simulators and all of that sort of stuff. Yes, EA delisted some Need for Speed games. This is something that's going to happen too, right? A lot of licensed games will have music and other situations like that where they're like, oh, we can't sell this anymore. Like one of the Forza games just kind of went away, right? But in that case, they're just taking it off sale. And if you own the game, you still own the game. So I can't get too mad at that. But at the same time, you want to hope that as publishers are doing these deals for different, whether it's music or licensed cars or licensed guns, all this sort of stuff, all the different licensed things that show up in a video game, you have to hope that they know that they need to secure these licenses in some form of perpetuity. Because if they don't, and we're going to go through this again and again and again, where like games have to go off sale because they didn't do this the right way. As things transition to full digital, and make no mistake, like we're going to end up there. Like already the disc you're buying in a store just installs the game to your console. It's just a faster download at the end of the day. So we're kind of, in some ways, already there. Like the discs themselves have never been more useless in a lot of ways. I get why people still collect games and why they feel like they want to hold on to a thing, but patches and all this other stuff, like at the end of the day, preservation will be achieved by pirates. I don't think there's any other way around it. And it's sad to say, but I guess, look, the industry is starting to wake up to some of these ideas. The Video Game History Foundation is out there doing good work. And I think more people are thinking about the notion of preservation of behind the scenes materials and all this other stuff. As well as like, hey, what do we do with our games long term? I think more and more people are thinking about that sort of stuff. But we'll see how it all goes. Things are so weird with that stuff. But I have to think, especially as we're like, think about it. We're entering an era where the PlayStation 5 just came out. All the PlayStation 4 games still work. They should sell those games forever. At this point, they are establishing an expectation that when the PlayStation 6 comes out, it will play PlayStation 4 games, right? Am I like, that's a good question. Am I crazy about this thing and this one specific thing? Not everything. Am I crazy to think that when a PlayStation 6 comes out, it will run PS4 games? Because that is the expectation now. And you're seeing it now with Sony rolling out this stuff, next week, I think it is, where because the PlayStation 3 is so fucking weird, they have to run it in the damn cloud. Hopefully that'll change. I can run PlayStation 3 games a handful of different ways here. But that comes with a performance cost, obviously. And so I don't know. That's where I'm at with it, is right now when I think about it, I think that unless there's an architecture change that's so huge and so meaningful that like video games have to change, like it's as big as the move from 2D to 3D, like there's some massive scale shift in the underlying technology. Or if there's like, oh, all this x86 stuff, it's junk. We're putting Apple M3s in consoles now. Whatever. We're going ARM. We're going this. We're going that. If they do some big change, and who the fuck knows? I am not an inventor of computer chips, despite what you may have heard on the internet. I think that for me, the expectation is that those games will last forever because they fucked it up for a lot of generations now, and they're starting to get it right. And I feel like the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 generation was the last acceptable generation for them to be fucking this up because they weren't thinking about it then. But now they are. And now that they're thinking about it, they need to never not think about it. I will grant you that sometimes the games you own on Steam fall into a state of disrepair and they don't run anymore, or you can download them, but they're janky as fuck. And so modders have come in and cleaned up games and made them run on modern systems. Like, oh, we're going to patch this so it works on Windows 11 because it's 11 years older, whatever it is. The PC allows for that, and that's great. Consoles are kind of in a different bucket for that stuff. But I think the expectation is the same. I think when I look at Steam, when I look at buying digital games, and this is ridiculous that I'm doing this, but Steam lives on this monitor when I have it open. And the Epic client ends up opening over here on my new third monitor. So if you're watching the video and you're seeing me point at different monitors for this, it's because of the ridiculous way I have fucking laid things out. I don't actually leave the Epic client open. Anyway, long story, somewhat less long. For me, the expectation is that those games will continue to work in something that resembles perpetuity, right? It be, as far out as we can imagine right now, realistically. But again, what if the PlayStation 6 is some completely different weird architecture? What if everyone moves in a different direction? The next Xbox comes out and it's totally a different thing. What if, they've been running Windows on ARM for a long time? What if ARM is the thing? What if something else comes along that am completely unaware of? And that's the new architecture that's like incredible and amazing and is the standard. Then it becomes that emulation situation again, where you're like, okay, can we translate all this x86 code from the PlayStation 4 era, from the PlayStation 5 era, all this other shit? Can we translate that so that it runs well on these new processors? You would like to think so, but there's certainly no guarantee. It might be way harder. Again, I don't know what it takes to do that. It does not seem easy. And so would that be worth it to you? That's my next question for you. Would it be worth it? Would you be willing to give up your existing libraries and say, well, I guess I have to keep a PlayStation 5 around because games have changed significantly? Do you want a massive sea change in video games to happen? This is a dumb question now that I'm saying it out loud. Or do you think that games are just going to be like this? And you know what I mean by like this? Playing them on these sorts of screens, this type of online architecture surrounding them, first-person shooters, third-person shooters, a wide swath of smaller indie games, live games, more and more live games, all that sort of stuff. Just make them all, Musharoni's saying just make them all on PC. Sure, yeah. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the end. Richard wants Mr. Do on the blockchain. Never. Fucking never. Mr. Do is not interested in these scammy paydays. Mr. Do is an upstanding individual, a fine citizen, and the only emote you will ever need on twitch.tv. But only because I if anyone has any emote ideas, I would take them because I got that one. I think Bryn made that one, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so I don't know. The future of digital ownership, you'd like to think that they're going to get it right this time and that they're not going to screw it all up, but we'll see. He. Let's see here. Tommy from Finland writes in, number one in Finland, planning anything regarding the Xbox event? Yes, I will be in this chair talking to you while we watch the Xbox conference. That's the plan. And that's the plan. We'll watch that Xbox stream live. What is it? That's Sunday morning. Am I going to watch the Capcom one? That's Monday, right? I am. I would plan to watch a bunch of those. The Summer Game Fests. Yeah, I would very much like to do that. I'll try to get. Do I need to get a website up That's this is stuff I can post on Patreon, obviously, because they have a room for a blog and all that other stuff. You can go to patreon.com/Jeff Gerstmann, and I'll try to post some of that stuff there. But hey, I'll probably need to post some kind of like, hey, here's the plan. Here's what we're doing. We'll eventually settle into something resembling a schedule, and maybe that can live on the Twitch website, as Hot Dad might say. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe we need maybe I need a WordPress somewhere or something like that. And we'll go from there. I don't know. I'm worried about making too many different places that I will have to update, and then I'll have to spend time updating all of them. So yes, Bob Vids is saying forward Jeff.zone to the Patreon. Keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. That is probably actually the right answer. And I almost did do that, and I may still do that. Not that I am going to abandon Tumblr per se, but I'm going to be very busy, and I don't, a lot of Tumblr questions have been coming in, and I don't know when I'll have time to do that. Just post the schedule on Patreon. You're saying, yeah, okay. We'll start with that. We'll see how it goes. Much to figure out. But yes, the hey, how do I convey what we're doing to you, the viewer? These are things you have to figure out. Last question here from Mark. Do you think we will see a new tier of game in the future that steps above AAA? Games are more expensive to make, and the industry is rearranging and pooling resources. Would we ever see quad A level games? And what would that look like to you? That's a term. You see that. You see that term thrown around a little bit. I don't know how much it's used in the actual industry as opposed to just being used by people on the internet, but wasn't the Microsoft studio that the Perfect Dark studio, weren't they billing that as a quad A studio? I'm trying to think when the first time I heard the term quad A. It's been years since I've heard people in the business try to use it. The Callisto Protocol says they're quad A. It's such a... The fuck does that mean? What does it mean? Does it mean it's a, like, how do you... What does that mean? Is it a budget? It should be a budgetary thing, right? The concept of AAA originally meant it's got a AAA budget and we're behind it all the way. This is a tentpole game for us. It don't get no bigger. And so 4 A's. Yes, Sebmal in the chat. The worst thing you ever heard was, yes, this. I was about to get into this. The game company you used to work for calling themselves Triple I. Yes, I have definitely had some fucking snickering conversations with people in video games about the term Triple I. And that just means big indie dev at the end of the day. Which those exist, right? I mean, that's like, it's not too hard to wrap your mind around that conceptually, right? Like like Triple I, you're like, okay, yeah, I get what that means. And quad A, like, hey, like if you remove yourself from what Triple A seemed to mean, then you just go like, okay, they just mean it's even bigger, I guess. These games are already all big. Like, you didn't need to add a 4th A. I get why you did, because, eventually the shit is all pinball and you're going to have 27 A's. Randy with 8 A's. Yes. Is a quad I a double A? I feel like we need an A to I, like, translation, an Annapurna Interactive A to I kind of thing of, like, where does the translation happen? Is triple I, double A, is, because double A, I mean, it didn't mean companies, it meant individual games. It was like, okay, this driving game that we're putting out, we think it's going to be very good, but we're not going to market it the way we would market fucking Halo. It's a smaller project. It's a lower budget. It's this and that. It's, and all this other stuff. So, like, just conceptually, the terms are all dumb. The terms are all broken. Terms are all fucking stupid. But, you know, you need a reason. You need to be able to walk into a pitch meeting and say, we're a fucking quad A studio. You need to give us that money, son. Like, you know, sometimes you need to make that differentiation because people in suits need terms to throw around. They need nonsense. That's this business. They need more nonsense. But I hope we never see the, like, 5A game. God, games are already so expensive and such huge risks on the budget front. Like, imagine, like, this is our quad A game. It just fucking tanks. And you're like, oh, we put a quad A budget into this. It's like, all right, well, you better get working on a bunch of AAA stuff, I guess. I don't know. All right, this is the actual last question. Eric wrote in, hi, Eric. Eric says, anyway, I started playing Fuser from Harmonix, and the game is amazing, but Steam Spy says it has less than 20,000 owners on Steam, even though it's been out since November of 2020. I'm curious if you've ever played it, what you think of it, and why do you think it never found success? Fuser is awesome. Playing Fuser as a video game, like the part where you are like unlocking stuff and working your way through it, I think is not good. I don't think that progression was extremely entertaining. Fuser is also, it's a good point. People are saying that Fuser is available on the Epic Store, so there's people on PC that probably bought it there. It also came out on consoles, so you have some more sales there as well. The DLC was very pricey, and there was not enough of it. And that's right, just says it was an Epic Store exclusive for a while. I forgot about that. You know, they charged full price for it out of the gate. The DLC was pricey. It was an amazing concept that was super fun to play, but it was like a better toy than a video game. Oh, wow. Really? Mike by Daylight says Fuser has customs on PC now. I should make this window bigger because I keep having to. I should get glasses. The actual answer is I should fucking get glasses. That's, you want to talk about a pandemic? Another more fucking pandemic shit is. I was saying in 2020, like, I need to get my eyes checked out, and then all this shit happened, and I was not able to go. I have glasses, but none of them. I do not have a prescription. I have not had an eye exam in a very long time. I have these glasses for monitors sitting right here. Oh, that's very nice. Very nice. You know, Fuser didn't have enough DLC. The DLC was expensive, and it was an amazing toy, but not always a great video game. I think the part where you had to play it and progress and do those sorts of things just was kind of whatever. It was there. It was something you had to kind of suffer through to unlock the things you wanted to unlock, to do the things you wanted to do. And to me, I think that's the biggest problem. What's my insurance look like now? I mean, that is a great question. That is a great question. More expensive, I'm sure. But yeah, I think that's why Fuser maybe didn't like. When Fuser came out, I remember people being very excited about Fuser in that specific way of, oh, this is awesome. I love making mixes on this sort of stuff and doing all of that shit. But I sure don't want to play this as a video game because having to do the mixes the way they want you to do the mixes is not the thing in Fuser. And of course, Harmonix got acquired by Epic. I don't know if that was a thing that cut off Fuser DLC or if the publisher of the game just kind of was done anyway. But yeah, I think all of those things contributed to it, right? It's yeah. So I'm bummed, but hearing that there are that people are modding custom songs into Fuser is very interesting. Yeah, Fuser with Bandcamp integration could have been a very interesting thing. Epic would have to acquire, well, I mean, whatever. They acquired Harmonix. They could always do something similar because they did do Drop Mix. They could do something similar and integrate it into Fortnite, right? Bandcamp integration into Fortnite via Harmonix technology. I mean, it's very easy to look at that and go like, oh, fuck that. But also, that might be kind of neat. I don't know. That might be kind of neat, right? Who can say? Who can say what the hell Epic will do as the owners of Bandcamp? I know that's been stressful for some people that have music up on Bandcamp. I want to get some music up on Bandcamp. Get that stuff up there just so people can get at it more easily. Not necessarily some big moneymaker thing. But anyway, that's going to do it. We're going to wrap it up here at the old Jeff Gerstmann show. What else have we got going on? So yes, the streams, the industry streams of new video games. I am planning to be there to yammer over them and all that sort of stuff. If you're watching live, hang out because we are gonna watch the state of play stuff after this. But if you are listening to this show on the internet later, then that video is on YouTube somewhere. Who knows what that channel will be named by the time I need to figure out how to rename a YouTube channel because I fucking typed in the wrong thing. I guess I could just delete. Well, whatever. I'll figure out how to rename it. It'll work out. It'll be fine. It'll work out. It'll be fine. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out, for sticking with me. It's been a real fucking weird ride, hasn't it? These last 3 decades, but specifically, I guess, since 96, is when it really got weird in a way that you may have seen. Yeah, I don't know. I'm doing this because I love to do it. And I hope you have a good time with me. And you can find out more about some of the other stuff I'm intending to do in terms of videos and all the other stuff on Patreon. You can sign up for that level of access, get that hot access up at patreon.com/Jeff Gerstmann. It's a very exciting time. It's a very crazy time. I want to thank everyone watching. I want to thank, the coworkers that are no longer my coworkers. That's pretty crazy. They were pretty much the only people other than my immediate family that I saw on a regular basis. And, that's fucking weird. But, I wish them the best. They're off to the races and they're doing their thing. And that's cool. And, yeah, that's going to do it for this episode of this show. Like I said, if you're watching live, stick around. We'll, we're going to stay live and we're going to watch this Sony thing. And we'll be back next Tuesday with another episode of the Jeff Gerstmann show. The Jeff Gerstmann podcast? What does the art say? Show. It says show here. Ask for it by name. It should be live on the iTunes platform by now. Like I said, I still have to submit it to Spotify and some of these other places, Google Podcasts, Amazon. I don't. Most places just like once it goes up on Apple, they eventually suck it in and take it in. At least that in my experience, that's how it used to work. I don't know if it still works that way, but whatever. I'll try to get all that stuff submitted. Get links to that out there somewhere, and we'll. Yeah, I don't know. It's a podcast on the internet. Look for it where you look for podcasts. If it's not there, in a couple of days, tell me, and I'll go, ah, shit, and try to get it there. Have a great time, week, whatever. If you're not watching live, if you are watching live, like I said, hang the fuck out. We'll watch this Street Fighter thing. Oh, I need to play this hot music. Thanks again, Marco, for the music here.